Hello, can anybody hear me? Can anybody see me? Have we got any kind of success on this thing, or am I going to just have to go absolutely crazy? Yeah, I just need to check the audio and visuals. I just had to create a new stream. OBS, I think, is a lost cause that should die in a fire somewhere. Let me give me some feedback. Am I coming through okay? Is it everything all right, or is it same thing? Let me know, because I really want this to happen, and things are not happening right now. They are really not happening. I'm going to end the old stream. New one will be there. Hopefully, people joining got to advertise the old one. Um, Hopefully they'll get the picture. Yeah. Is this coming through okay? Is this coming through okay? Can anybody actually hear me, or is this a, a complete disaster? I hopefully it's not my internet, um, and it's not a complete and utter disaster of a time. Where's my old stream? Yes, I can delete that. I'm so sorry, everybody. I don't know why, but just nothing is coming through. I will delete that up. Uh, do we have disconnected? Shut that down. Get lost. 100%. No, it's not coming through. Are we still dying? All good. Okay, fantastic. That's all I need to know. Yeah, so wild, hey. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'll just have to grab. Oh boy. Oh boy. Ah, this is not great. This is not fantastic. Okay, that's right. That's right. Okay. Copy that. I will be with you in 1 second. 1 second. Open Zoom meetings. We're going in hard here. I will need PowerPoint actually. Um, I don't have a Be Right Back screen set up for this one. Uh, uh, uh. No, it's not. It's not the RAM. It's definitely not. This thing's got like 32 gigs of RAM. It's totally fine. Yeah. And I might add that last week it was working just fine. Just fine. Um So, oh, I do have a Be Right Back. Okay, I will. Yeah. I got it. I got it. This is not my preferred format for doing this. I'll tell you that right now. Hello. Just having tons of tech issues, like YouTube issues, everything dying. I've had to use double backups. It's been a disaster from the very word go. Just a disaster. But I'm here, and I will just be right back. I'll just audience. I will be right back as soon as we get organized and ready to go. Thank you so much for your patience. Really appreciate it, and I will be right back. Woo! All right. Yeah, I'm well. I'm well, thank you. How are you? Oh, oh, dang. Yeah. If you need to, then not a problem at all. I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds wild, mate. Yeah, fair. Hmm. No, not really. I mean, yeah, I don't really mind either. That's no problem at all. Yeah, sorry there, Alex. Good to see you as well, mate. How you doing? Oh, yeah.
Atheism, which is true. Thank you, James, for hosting the debate, putting it together. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mark, for being my opponent tonight. And thank you to everyone who's watching. I appreciate it. I am going to DebateCon 6. I already got my flight and hotel booked. I'm not debating there, but maybe if I get my cloud up, I can get an in-person spot at a future event. So go ahead, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search for Wi-Fi Gospel. All right. So Christianity or atheism, which is true? I believe that Christianity is true. And I would even dare to say that I know that Christianity is true. How can I make such a claim? The reason I can make such a claim is because the only way that we can justify that we can know anything to be true is if Christianity is true. I know that to the atheists in the audience, that may seem like a completely ridiculous claim. You may say something like, I don't believe Christianity is true, and I know things. And to that, I would say, yeah, I totally agree. What I'm not saying is that you can't know anything to be true if you don't believe that Christianity is true. I'm saying that if you don't believe Christianity is true, you have absolutely no way to justify the possibility of knowledge. Now, I want to be very careful here. When I say possibility of knowledge, I'm not talking about a proposition that one believes is probably knowledge. What I'm saying is that in order for knowledge to be possible at all, there are a set of preconditions that make knowledge itself intelligible in the first place. Not just the likelihood that a belief might be true, but the very foundation that makes the concept of knowing anything coherent, justified, and meaningful. To make my point, let's examine empiricism. We use our senses to observe things, and that sense data can give us some knowledge, right? For example, I have a cup of water in front of me right now. I can see it, I can touch it, I can sip my water and taste it, I could lick the cup and taste it, I can kind of smell both of them. And if I throw my cup against the wall here, I can hear the cup bounce off the wall and the water splash everywhere. Based on this sense data, I can conclude that I know that I have a cup of water in front of me. But how do I know that my senses are reliable enough to observe things correctly? This is where justification at the meta level comes in. This is meta epistemology. What you can't do to justify the reliability of your senses is use your senses. That would be circular reasoning. My senses are reliable because I have used my senses to observe past instances of my senses being reliable. Can't do that. You're relying on the reliability of your senses, the very thing in question, to try and prove the reliability of your senses. My senses are reliable because I use my senses to observe that other people make the same observations that I do and come to the same conclusions that I do. Can't do that either. Again, you are relying on the reliability of your senses, the very thing in question, to try and prove the reliability of your senses. So how do we know that our senses are reliable enough to obtain knowledge of material things? You don't, unless you begin with God, who created your senses, designed them to function in a coherent world, and revealed himself in such a way that makes sense of your experience. You do not start with your senses to prove God. You start with God to make sense of your senses. Without him, you're left blind, not physically, but epistemologically. You might throw the cup and hear the splash, but without God, you can't account for the splash, the cup, or the you that heard it. Formally, the argument goes like this. If knowledge is possible, then Christianity is true. Knowledge is possible, therefore Christianity is true. How do we justify premise one? Either Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, A, or knowledge is possible without Christianity, B. It is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity. Therefore, Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge. Both of the above syllogisms are using valid inference rules, namely modus ponens and the disjunctive. So listen very carefully to this. If my opponent tonight tries to say that my argument is circular, they need to show how either of the two syllogisms I just presented are actually not using valid inference rules. If he can't do that, he can't claim that my argument is circular. Some people may object and say, well, I could replace Christianity with anything in your syllogisms and get the same result. But here's why that doesn't work. Christianity isn't just a placeholder. It's the only worldview grounded in divine revelation. Without revelation from God, specifically Scripture and the church, no worldview can account for the possibility of knowledge. Why? Well, without God's revelation, knowledge claims rest on human opinion or consensus, both of which are fallible and vary across cultures and time. If your mind is the product of blind material processes, why trust it to produce truth? Revelation from God provides the basis for trusting our rational faculties. They're created, not accidental. All non-revelational systems are autonomous. They rely on human reasoning to justify human reasoning, which again, is circular. Without an external authority, you're trapped in subjectivism. Only Scripture reveals the nature of reality, the purpose of man, and the conditions under which knowledge is even possible, grounding things like logic, morality, and induction. Christianity doesn't just claim knowledge, it reveals its foundation. Other worldviews may mimic the form of the argument, but without God's revelation, they collapse under their own weight. And it's not just atheistic worldviews that fail. Even theistic worldviews without divine revelation collapse. A generic God or unknown deity might explain that a mind exists, but without clear verbal revelation, you have no access to that mind's thoughts, intentions, or truths. A God who hasn't spoken can't help you know anything, because without revelation, you're still left guessing. Now, which version of Christianity is true is a separate debate. We're not here to talk about why Joseph Smith is a false prophet. But what about other religions that have a proposed revelation from God? Well, if their revelation doesn't include a God who is uncreated, has created and sustains everything, knows everything, and has revealed himself to us in such a way that we can know him, then it doesn't work either. Now, you may be surprised to hear that there are actually only a very small number of religions that meet this criteria. Islam, Judaism, the Baha'i faith, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and Sikhism. Now, I would find it very interesting that if my opponent tries to use other religions to debunk Christianity, he would be implicitly giving up on atheism and saying that atheism is unable to refute Christianity. Otherwise, he would just stick with atheism and not have to bring up other religions. For the prompt of this debate, I think that would be devastating to my opponent's position. Starting with Islam. Islam fails by a contradiction with affirmed revelation. The Quran affirms the Bible, Torah, and Gospel as true, Surah 3:3 and 546. But the Bible contradicts the Quran on core doctrines, the Trinity, the crucifixion, both which the Quran deny. If the Quran affirms the Bible, but then contradicts it, it refutes itself. A self-contradicting revelation cannot be from God. Judaism fails. Daniel 9 pinpoints the Messiah's arrival before the destruction of the Second Temple. Jesus alone fits this prophecy. His life, death, and resurrection occur within the prophesied window. Judaism rejects Jesus as a Messiah, but offers no viable alternative to who fits the prophecy in Daniel 9. To await a future Messiah contradicts their timeline in their own scriptures, rendering their hope theologically and historically bankrupt. The Baha'i faith fails. It affirms the Bible as divine. Forgive me for butchering this. Kitab-i-Aqdas, para 89. But the Bible teaches that Jesus is the final revelation. Baha'u'llah claims new revelation, contradicting what he affirms is true. If the Bible is true, Baha'u'llah is false. If Baha'u'llah is true, his affirmation of the Bible's truth is false. Either way, the worldview self-destructs. Zoroastrianism fails. The Gathas lack any claim to be self-authenticating, infallible revelation from a personal God. Cosmic dualism, good versus evil, right? The two gods, one God is good, one God is evil, undermines divine sovereignty and the uniformity needed for rational thought. Human reason has no justification without a creator who designed it to know truth. Reverence for wisdom means nothing without an objective revelation to define it. Hinduism fails. Hinduism teaches that the world is Maya, illusion. But if reality is illusion, reasoning itself is illusion, including the conclusion that reality is an illusion. A worldview that undermines the trustworthiness of all perception collapses under its own weight. Finally, Sikhism fails. Sikhism teaches that God, Waheguru, is incomprehensible and beyond human understanding. Yet it makes definitive claims about God's attributes, like omniscience. You can't both claim that God is unknowable and then tell me about him. If he can't be known, nothing can be said about him, including that he's omniscient. Only Christianity, grounded in the self-attesting, infallible, and publicly revealed Word of God, provides the necessary foundation for the laws of logic, the reliability of human senses and reason, and the epistemic authority to know truth. Every other worldview contradicts its own foundations, denies the possibility of knowledge, or borrows from Christianity to make sense of anything at all. So if you hear my opponent tonight claiming that my argument is circular, or that any religion can be used in my argument to make it work, then you can conclude that my opponent either didn't listen or doesn't understand the argument. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you very much for that opening. Folks, it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate. I'm your host, Dr. James Coons. We host debates on science, religion, and politics, trying to be a neutral debate platform where everybody gets their chance to make their case to the world. We're going to kick it over to our friend Mark as well for his case that atheism is true or has the evidence. Thanks for being with us. Mark, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, James. And thanks to Alex for being here and to the audience for joining me. Really appreciate it. I will have to share my screen. I do apologize. 1 second, I'll just get set up here. I do apologize. The lateness of the broadcast had some technical issues. So again, I do apologize for that. It struck me right in the credentials. So yeah, I'll just get this up and just tell me when I am good to go.
We are all set, ready for
All right, fantastic. So Christianity versus atheism, which is correct. It's a bit of a loose title. I get that. You're sort of asking which is more accurate, I guess, or which accurately describes reality, which is fine by me. So first we want to talk, there's a few reasons to establish why God is a proposition that should not only be disbelieved, further, it should be believed that no God exists. When we look at how to evaluate a claim, unfalsifiable claims are not worth considering for a truth status if there is no way they can be falsified. For instance, if someone like Carl Sagan says that they have an invisible, immaterial, all-powerful dragon in their garage, but there's no way to falsify or investigate the truth of such a claim, then it should be considered false until such a time some sort of criteria for falsification can be established. The same is true with Bigfoot, aliens, leprechauns, pixies, any of these unfalsifiable things, including an unfalsifiable God. Because the claim that God comes with the assertion that accounts for all possible things, then it seems by its nature it's unfalsifiable, as no set of circumstances falsifies it, as no set of circumstances would ever falsify the immaterial dragon. For this debate, I'll be asking my opponent what standard of falsification that they're actually using. The important part of this is we only have confidence in things because they continue to show themselves to be true. However, we cannot observe all cases everywhere. For instance, you can say that a heavy object release will fall down, but the question can be asked, have you observed all instances of things falling down at all times in all locations? We do not need to observe all things at all. This is impossible. Enough repeated instances can allow us to say, I know something heavy will fall when I release it. This knowledge claim is easily falsifiable by a single instance of something heavy floating upwards, as an example. Until this can be shown, we are justified in saying, I believe no heavy things when released will float upwards. And that is falsifiability. So any God that, this is the first problem, the lack of evidence. So any God that interacts with the world through miracles or other supernatural acts, as theists usually claim, should be detectable on some physical level. There's lots of claims that various gods are responsible for various things, but these claims are, again, unfalsifiable. Usually an appeal to divine hiddenness must be made. So another excuse for lack of evidence, but again, an invisible, intangible dragon could use magical dragon hiddenness for the same argument. And this is a reductio ad absurdum, putting a contrary into the same argument and seeing if you get the same result. Now, a divinely hidden God or deist God does not interact with the world is just as bad because there would be no way to show that such a God could even exist. Again, it's unfalsifiable. And even worse, there's no way a theist could justify the existence of a God that does not interact with the world, as they would lack any criteria for evaluating its existence. A divinely hidden God would be identical to a God that does not exist. Now, it gets even worse when you consider that the God wishes to know he exists, as the Christian God ostensibly does. An omniscient God would know that implementing divine hiddenness would cause people not to believe. There is no way a God could not know this, as this is what happens due to a lack of evidence. So a God that does not want people to know that he exists, or they lack, so either a God does not want some people to know that he exists, or they lack the power to provide convincing evidence, which is equally unacceptable in the Christian doctrines. The logical conclusion is that a God simply does not exist, which is why we have insufficient evidence to believe in a God. The next evidence is the problem of evil. This is a huge one that no satisfactory answer by Christians so far. According to their doctrine, a God has a plan for all humanity, and that seems to include the infliction of great evils upon us, or presumably the allowance of evils to be inflicted on us by a third party. However, this is a problem as it causes one of the properties ascribed to the God to break. If a God is all good, they would not inflict nor allow this. If a God is all powerful, they cannot fail to stop it. And if a God is all knowing, they would not be ignorant to our suffering. The only conceivable solution to this problem is to say that suffering being inflicted is actually a good thing, which leads to another bigger logical problem. Take this example, a disease that kills children. If that suffering is done because a God knows it will lead to a good outcome in their divine plan, then the child getting these diseases or even dying from them is a good thing. So how should a theist consider medicine we fight the disease in the child? How should they consider that? All of us would say it is a good thing we cure disease, but it provides a problem as we are thwarting the ultimately good end that a God is trying to do. If a God wanted us to cure the child by developing medicine, then why did children die of the disease for thousands of years until we invented the cure? And why do some attempted cures fail and some succeed? The atheistic stance would just say that these diseases are neither good nor evil. They're just part of an uncaring nature, which is logically consistent and does not run into this problem. Now, the Trinity is one that really bugs me. It's a concept that's completely illogical and irrational. God is described as one being. However, that one being is three persons. Each of those three persons is a complete representation of God with nothing external needed for completion. However, this makes absolutely no sense. It's each of these three persons is 100% God. Then you have 300% God, or three gods. I did the math on this multiple times, and it does check out. There should be 3 gods, but the Christians say, no, it's just one God, even though the Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit is, you guessed it, God, all being total and complete. This is completely illogical, makes no sense whatsoever. Also, there's a massive problem with being all-powerful and not having authority over part of existence. If the Son is all-powerful, he should have power over everything, but he does not. He lacks power over the Father and of the Holy Spirit, which each lack power over the Son and each other. Each person of this trilogy cannot be omnipotent, as they lack power over the other 2 persons of the Trinity, failing in being omnipotent unless you redefine all-powerful to have limitations. Essentially, this leads to the question, how can one of these persons be all-powerful when it does have limitations? And that's the end of my presentation. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thrilled to have you here, as well as Alex. And folks, want to give you a quick housekeeping update. So Modern Day Debate is joining hands with a conference happening this summer. Let me turn my audio up. Let me know in the chat if my audio seems all right. This summer, if you look in the description box, there is a link for a free in-person debate. If you are anywhere near Youngstown, Ohio, there are going to be 2 free debates. Basically, it was a conference. They are doing an apologetics conference. They're like, James, we'd like to help get the word out about these debates. And then we also want Modern Day Debate to moderate and stream them. And I was like, hey, that sounds cool. So basically, you guys don't want to miss this. One of the debates is basically an argument against Islam. Daniel Hakikachu will be debating David Wood. It's called the Islamic Dilemma. So whether you be Muslim or maybe you're like, no, I'm not a Muslim, I actually don't believe it, I actually am a critic or skeptic of Islam, you have a dog in the fight, because that debate is basically on whether or not Islam has a fatal flaw. So you don't want to miss these debates. The other one's just as good. Check out that link in the description box if you're anywhere near Youngstown, Ohio. 2 free debates. I'll be there in person. Come say hello. I'd love to meet you. With that, we're going to jump into the open dialogue. Mark and Alex, thanks for being with us. The floor is all yours.
Alex, you can go first. I ended.
All right. So now, and I may have misunderstood. It did seem like you gave some refutations of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Was that also your positive claim for atheism?
Yes.
Okay. And so your positive claim for atheism is that Christianity is false.
Well, it's just because the debate is Christianity versus atheism today. That's the debate we're having today. So I was more specific towards Christianity, but I can expand to other gods. It's just at some point you're going to have to narrow down on Christianity for your side.
Okay. And I'm totally okay with not diving into the other religions for the prompt of this debate. Totally fine. But it seems to me that saying that because because Christianity and maybe all other religions are false, why would that make atheism true?
Well, it's an extension of that. So basically, when I'm talking about falsifiability, nobody's come up with any kind of falsifiability criteria for any god, right? So when you're talking about falsifiability, you're talking about essentially an ability to test something, to basically say, hey, if these set of circumstances arise, then we know that hypothesis or the suggestion or the claim is actually false. So it's not enough to say, hey, it fails that. It's got to be possible to fail it, which ostensibly, or it seems to be, that God doesn't have that criteria, that you're saying it's, sort of beyond human ability to interact with. And that's fine. But I could say, hey, there's a, alien outside of the Milky Way at the moment that has my name on a list of special people, and that's not falsifiable either. You can't possibly falsify that.
Would that also mean that you couldn't possibly provide evidence for it either?
Well, correct. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't,
okay.
But it would be up to me to provide the evidence to show that it is actually the case that a alien outside of the Milky Way has my name on a special list. And if I can't do that, it would be more than reasonable to believe that that is not true.
Okay, that's fair. Now, wouldn't atheism be just as unfalsifiable?
What do you mean?
So you're saying that there's no way to falsify Christianity, There's no
Yeah.
way to provide evidence for it. Therefore, we can't even really have the discussion.
But
Wouldn't
I get-
atheism fall? Well, not that we couldn't have the discussion, but you're
Yeah.
saying that this is a proof that Christianity is false because it's unfalsifiable,
Yes.
right? Wouldn't atheism fall under that same problem?
No,
Why not?
because God's just got to show up.
Yeah, but like, can you provide any evidence that there is no God?
What do you mean?
Well, because you said that if something is unfalsifiable, then it cannot
Yes.
be proven true or false.
No,
And that's a problem.
no, not true.
Okay.
False, right? It can't be proven false. And atheism can easily, and this was part of my thing. A God is supposedly all powerful. It would be a trivial matter for a God to prove atheism false. It is under your sort of perspective, a God could falsify atheism in a second, right? I presume that you would agree that a God would have the power to prove that he exists to everybody in an instant, correct?
Yeah, and I would say he had, but was there something else you were going with that, or was that it?
Well, I don't see the evidence that he has. I really
Gotcha.
don't.
I just didn't want to cut you off if you were
Or she
asking
has.
and then
No, that's
ask
fine.
another
That's
question.
not a problem.
But it seems to me that you're saying that one cannot provide evidence for God, and therefore, it would be that atheism is just as unfalsifiable.
What do you mean you can't provide evidence for God?
Well, and maybe I misunderstood, but when I asked you about the alien, right?
Yeah.
You said that this claim that obviously you don't believe in is made up, that you wouldn't be able to provide evidence for it, but it's also unfalsifiable. Wouldn't then atheism fall under that same category?
No, because atheism is falsifiable. All you need to do is show that there is a God.
All right. And then if Christianity is falsifiable, all you need to do is show that there is no God.
How does that falsify a God if you don't show a God? Like, it's the same as with the alien. Well, just a sec, Alex. It's the same with the alien. That's like saying, well, an alien's falsifiable as long as I don't show there's an alien.
No, as long as you provide evidence that there isn't an alien.
Evidence that there isn't an alien. And how would you go about doing that?
Well, I'm not sure, but that's the same thing with atheism.
Yeah.
How do you provide evidence that there is no God?
How do I provide evidence that something doesn't exist? Is that what you're asking?
Right. And if you can't do that, then that means atheism is also
It seems like you're
unfalsifiable.
shifting the burden of proof here. You're basically saying, hey, you've got to prove that something doesn't exist by showing the evidence that it's not there. You realize how sort of crazy that sounds when you're talking about, like, if you say, well, I don't believe that alien exists, and then me as the alien believer turns around and goes, well, show me evidence the alien doesn't exist. You're doing exactly the same thing.
I totally understand, and I actually agree with you, and I wouldn't make that as my argument. I'm just showing you that the atheism, because you cannot provide evidence for the non-existence of something, that would mean that the non-existence of something is unfalsifiable.
No, the non-existence of something is falsifiable by showing evidence of it. You seem to be really confused.
Well, if you can't show evidence for something, you're saying, no, sorry.
Right. So look. It's like, okay, you've got this bottle, right? This is my water bottle. Okay, you've got this bottle, and I've got it off screen, and I say, hey, I've got a water bottle off screen, and you as the atheist position, right? I'm the God position. Just say this is God. My water bottle is now God. Okay, it's off screen. You can't see it, and I say I've got water bottle here, and you say, well, I don't believe that you've got a water bottle there. I believe there is no water bottle, right? And then you say, well, how do I falsify that? I show you the water bottle, right? It's falsifiable because all that's got to happen is you've got to, anybody shows evidence that a God actually does exist. It is falsifiable. But you're sort of saying, hey, if you can't falsify the non-existence of it, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay. Now I'll play it through one more time and then we can move on just to make sure. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. But now let's flip it back. So now I'm the atheist and try to make it work with your analogy. I don't have a cup right in front of me.
Yeah.
Can you give me evidence that I don't have a cup in front of me?
Can I give you evidence that you don't have a cup in front of me?
Yes, you right now. from
Yeah,
your
that
position.
that from my position, it's unfalsifiable.
Okay.
But all
so
you've got to do
there-
to convince me there's a cup there is show me the cup.
Well, but I'm not trying to convince you that there's a cup there. I'm saying there's no cup. There's no cup to show you.
There's no cup to show me.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would be justified in believing that there is no cup.
Even though that there's no cup that's unfalsifiable.
But there isn't a cup, right?
Well, I'm telling you that there is no cup right here. How do you
Yes.
falsify my claim?
How do I falsify your claim?
Yeah, that there is no cup in front of me.
Well, I wouldn't.
Right, and all I'm trying to say is that atheism falls to the same trap.
If you
It's
basically
unfalsifiable.
What? That's ridiculous.
Okay, we can move on.
Because, like, you're basically saying, well, I've got this thing beside me, but I'm not going to show it to you. Or I don't have this thing. So I've got, there is nothing there, and I can't see it. I can't interact with it in any way whatsoever. And I'm telling you there is for some reason. Then wouldn't I be a bit weird if I had no knowledge of that and I had no way to falsify it? Wouldn't I be a bit weird in saying there is a cup there, even if you're saying there's not?
Well, that's the claim that you're making. You're saying if something is unfalsifiable, then we shouldn't believe it.
But it's falsifiable. All you've got to do is show the cup.
Not from your position.
Yeah, not from my
position. There is
no
cup to show you.
Yeah, that's why if it was unfalsifiable, I wouldn't keep telling you there's a cup there when I had no way to investigate it.
No, but you're not, you would just agree with me that there's no cup because it's unfalsifiable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would believe there's no cup.
If my claim...
If you said there's no cup there, I would say, okay, there's no cup there. Why would I be trying to falsify, trying to say is true, something that I can't investigate?
So if there is no God, I say, there's no God here, no God anywhere.
Right.
That claim is unfalsifiable. Just like I'm saying there's no cup.
I could just produce the God if I was opposed to that position.
All right, I think we're misunderstanding there, but we can move on from there.
Okay,
did you want to go, or you want me?
Yeah. I'd like to really start on that syllogism that you had, because it seemed very, very strange. Because you sort of said, if knowledge is possible, then Christianity is true, right? And that was the start of your syllogism. That seems to be a non sequitur. I don't understand why, if knowledge is possible, like it's possible to have knowledge, why is God true if knowledge is possible?
Right. So that would lead into the second syllogism. I don't know if you wrote that one down, but I can say it if you haven't.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Oh, excuse me. This is a disjunctive syllogism. Either Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, or knowledge is possible without Christianity.
Yes.
It is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity.
Why is
Therefore, that? Do you want me to finish it? So
sorry, Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Therefore, Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge.
Okay, so why is knowledge not possible without Christianity? That seems like a non sequitur right there.
Right. So the reason that knowledge is not possible without Christianity is because any attempt to justify a knowledge claim within autonomous epistemology, like with just humans, is inherently circular.
Why?
And so I went through the example like with empiricism, right? With the cup, you can see it. Oh, go ahead.
That's kind of hard solipsism. It's sort of saying, how can we trust anything at all? It seems to be getting down to well, I don't believe the senses around me, but you seem to be inserting God as the reason why you believe the senses around you. What's your definition of knowledge, just quickly, so I know where you're coming from?
A justified true belief would be
okay.
Fine.
Good. Yep. Okay.
And so I would say about the hard solipsism, and I just say this as a qualifier because I would say that atheism, and now I'm not saying atheism is a monolith, right? People like to quibble about that. I'm not even saying like atheism is one worldview, but I would say it could describe worldviews, right? Like your worldview would be atheistic. I don't know if you agree in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it would atheistic, sure.
Right. Because like a lot of atheists don't like if I were to say atheism is a worldview for some reason. I'm not sure your stance on that.
Yeah, it's not. So worldview encompasses a lot of different beliefs and a lot of different things. So I think that it can be unnecessarily reductive, but that's fine. If you want to call mine an atheistic one, sort of, it is part of it. So sure, I'm fine with that.
Cool. And the reason I say that is because I think any atheistic worldview, any worldview that includes atheism, entails hard solipsism.
I'm not sure I would agree with that. I don't think I'm a hard solipsist. I don't think there's any reason to believe that our senses are an illusion. I think that considering their direct sensory input, I think that's enough justification to sort of say that they are pretty well dependable. Especially when they seem to form before we even have minds to receive data from them.
And you're not going to like this, so forgive me. I'm not trying to say a gotcha or anything, but it sounds like what it boils down to is my senses are reliable because they've been reliable.
Yeah,
or they seem to be reliable.
Well, it's more that my senses are the only input into the external world of me there is. Like, that is the only way I have to interact with the world around me. So they seem to be reliable, confirmed through the senses kind of thing, but we know that they can be fooled, so they're not 100% reliable. So when we're looking at this, we're not going, okay, I'm 100% certain in my senses. I know they can be fooled.
Right.
It's confidence levels. And I don't have any other way to interact with the world around me. So I have to be confident, at least sort of for a given value of confidence in the senses that I do have, because I don't have any alternative ones.
So it seems like the only thing you could say is that the reliability of your senses are an axiom that you hold.
Well, we're sort of getting away from how knowledge is not possible without Christianity, because people learn about Christianity through their senses. Like, you don't get born knowing about God or Jesus or the Bible or anything like that. You've got to be taught, which is why they have Bible schools. So the whole idea that Christians don't use their senses and sometimes have it been to them, that does not seem like a true claim.
Well, the fact that Christianity is true doesn't come about through sensory experience.
Well, you still haven't justified how you know the fact of Christianity is true. You still haven't tied that into knowledge is only possible with Christianity, which seems to be one of your claims.
And that's the reason I was trying to examine empiricism. Right now, not everybody's not every atheist is an empiricist, and I would say most people, even though if they claim they're strict empiricists, they knowingly believe in other things that are not material. But we don't have to get into that right now. But I would say that empiricism is one example. If an atheist were to try to use it as their epistemology, it would fail not at the first order, but at the second order in the justification, the meta epistemic level, which I think that's why I was trying to get to the axioms, because it seems like the only position you can hold is that your senses are reliable is an axiom that you hold.
Well, it's not really an axiom. It is a acknowledgement of, it's basically a properly basic belief. It predates our mind. I cannot choose to, or I cannot basically hold a belief that my senses are not real. That will occur no matter what I put my mind through. You will still feel pain no matter what your doxastic or knowledge base is. It does override that, like, what would it mean not to believe, say, for instance, a pain response?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I would say that your beliefs don't affect reality, right? But I would say that the reason reality is the way it is what we're arguing over. Yes. I'm saying that if there's an atheistic world, right, in an atheistic worldview, it doesn't make sense that our senses are reliable. And to prove that, there's actually no justification for the reason that our senses are reliable.
No, there is a reason why our senses are reliable in an atheistic world. It's just natural processes favor those organisms with more reliable senses. But you still haven't gotten to, you've sort of meta epistemology and sort of said, well, empiricism would fail. You haven't,
Right.
you keep going to something other than Christianity. I'm asking you why Christianity makes the senses true, and you keep ducking away to other stuff. So can you
Well,
stick to Christianity and explain why Christianity makes knowledge possible? Because you don't seem to want to answer
yeah.
it.
So within the framework of Christianity, if there is a God who has created us and created the world with intention, right? Not accidental, but with intention for us to know him and to know the world, right? To dominate the world, to take dominion over it, as is said in Genesis, then it makes sense that he would create us with reliable enough senses to navigate the world and to know things. Now, I'm not saying that just me stating that proves Christianity is true, but that's a worldview in which senses can be justified in a non-circular way. Whereas in an atheistic worldview, it cannot.
Well, that's actually a fallacy. It's called affirming the
Okay.
consequent. You're basically saying, if God is true, this is what we'd expect. We see this, so God is true. It's actually a logical fallacy. So you're actually,
that's not my argument.
well, you're saying if this, if
Well,
that. It's not a, that is not a demonstration that
right.
why the knowledge is only possible with Christianity, or our senses are possible with Christianity. It's basically saying, well, I come up with a reason why we would expect our senses to be accurate, and then saying, well, if that's the case, then God. And that is a fallacy. However, there are multiple other reasons why our senses could be accurate, through natural means, through competition, through all kinds of naturalistic mechanisms that could absolutely account for our senses. But you don't
So,
seem to want to be pinned down on, like, because you've made a claim. Your claim is knowledge is only possible through Christianity, but you haven't substantiated that. All you've said is, if God exists, if he wants us to interact with the world in a way that is understandable, then that is knowledge. Well, so what? I could put leprechauns there and do the same.
so it seems that you made both the mistakes I said you would make in my opening statement. That it's circular and that you can replace everything. That you can replace Christianity with anything. And what I said after I said that claim, I said when I said, if Christianity is true, we can expect our senses to be reliable. Right after that, I said, just me saying that claim isn't proof that it is. I understand that. But what I am saying is, in this framework, our senses being reliable is a non-circular justification within that framework. But no other framework can provide that non-circular justification, which is why I was pressing on empiricism. And if you want to say that I'm affirming the consequent in my syllogisms, we could go there, but both the syllogisms are valid inference rules, which would mean that they could not be affirming the consequent.
Well, I didn't say it was a circular argument. I didn't say that. But what I'm saying is that, and sort of saying, hey, he's going to point out this fallacy by using a reductio ad absurdum, because that is one of the ways that you do a reductio. You basically put in the contrary, and if the same argument works, it is reduced to absurdity, because you can't have two valid reasons for the same thing. Right? This is how a reductio ad absurdum works. So you pointing out that I may do that during the debate doesn't mean that it's not a valid criticism of your arguments. It's just you hedging your bets ahead of time to say, hey, he's going to do this, because you know the flaws in your argument. So, I mean, it's a nice setup, but no, you can still do a reductio ad absurdum. I can still say, if a leprechaun who's magical wants us to know that the world and know through our senses, then that leprechaun provides the framework for all knowledge, and it works just as well. That is a reductio ad absurdum, because not a leprechaun and a god can be responsible for that, even though they work just as well as one another. And you pointing that out ahead of time doesn't give you any credibility.
But they don't work out. And if you remember in my opening statement, I gave the reasons why a leprechaun could not be the necessary preconditions for knowledge.
Why not?
Well, unless you're going to say that this leprechaun is God.
No, it's magic.
Are you saying, well, like, did it create everything? Does it sustain everything?
Yeah, it's magical.
All right, so now you're not talking about the leprechaun that most people imagine when you say leprechaun. Now you're talking about some other deity, right?
Well, it can be anything. That's the whole point.
Well,
There
no, it
can
can't
be
be anything.
billions and billions of alternatives of magical things, or things that, like a magical Blarney stone, that just all it does is magically create universes, create intelligent beings, create all these things. And not only that, there can be billions of other possibilities that humans have not thought of. You are just putting in God and therefore begging the question. You're assuming the truth of it up front rather than actually drilling down to why that God is responsible for knowledge.
No, I'm not assuming it. I gave the argument for it. But here's the interesting thing. You're doing another thing that I said you would do. You're ditching atheism to try to use some magic leprechaun to disprove Christianity.
No, it's a Blarney stone.
Right?
It's a magical stone.
Okay. So you're again now, but again, you have to make this stone God. Because
No,
if it doesn't have the qualities of God that the Christian has, then it can't be the necessary precondition for knowledge.
Well, why does the Christian God have to be the necessary precondition for knowledge? You haven't established that.
Yes, I have. So
No, you haven't.
the necessary preconditions for knowledge are one, that our senses are reliable. If your senses are reliable, you can't have material knowledge. You can't have knowledge about material things. Atheism cannot produce a justification for the statement that I know that a cup is in front of me, for example.
Yeah, I can.
How?
Well, as I said, you basically can say that because you have access directly to that information from your senses.
Okay. And this is where the rubber meets the road.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that your senses are reliable enough to give you accurate data about the outside world?
How do you know your senses are reliable enough to give you accurate data about the outside world?
That's a too quoque fallacy.
Doesn't matter.
Can't answer my question with a question.
Doesn't matter.
Fallacies don't matter.
It's not a tu quoque. It's basically saying that you're appealing to hard solipsism and you've got exactly the same problems. You just turn to a God and say God fixes it, and it doesn't.
Right. So if there is no God, you're in this circle. If there is a God, there is no circle. That's the thing.
So you basically go to God. How do you know that God makes your senses accurate?
Through the syllogism, because like you said, I agree
through a syllogism.
That's an argument. Like that's how I know, right?
So the same. It was flawed.
Hold on 1 second. It's not. You have not shown that at all. But I would agree with you that our senses are reliable. That if they weren't reliable, we wouldn't be able to know anything, right?
And I agree that they are reliable. So we've got a point of agreement, right? That they're reliable.
Yes.
Okay. So you're basically saying, and you're making the claim that reliability comes from God. The problem is that you're begging the question. You're basically saying it is God. You're not demonstrating that it comes from God. You're just claiming it.
Here's the demonstration. So
yes,
we both agree that knowledge is possible. In fact, to say that knowledge isn't possible would be a contradiction, right? You would agree with that?
Well, it depends if that's a belief or a knowledge claim. But yeah, I get what you mean. If I had knowledge that knowledge is impossible, then yeah, that would be a contradiction, yes.
Well, and that's interesting too, because even a belief is a knowledge claim. And I'll show you how. If you say, I believe that knowledge is not possible, or sorry, I believe that knowledge is possible, you are implicitly saying, I know that I hold the belief that knowledge is not possible, or that knowledge is possible. Sorry.
Not the case, because
so knowledge you don't know that?
Well, knowledge is justified true belief. A belief is unjustified, right? So you can have a belief in something and it's not justified by anything, and that's fine.
Right.
But knowledge is when you have justification for it. And at the moment, you seem to have a belief in God, but you don't have knowledge because nothing's justified.
If you have a belief about something, do you know that you have that belief?
If I have a belief about something, do I know I have that belief?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So even when you say I have that, and I don't want to get caught too up because you said that it's fine to say that knowledge isn't possible.
Well, let's look at it this way. Okay, so if I have a belief about something, it is justified because it's in my own mind. Like my mind is the direct thought is the justification, just like the direct sensory input is the justification. Right. And if it is, in fact, also true that I have that belief, then it is knowledge.
Well, there's some caveats there with Gettier cases that we could get into, but I don't want to bog it down. The problem is, all I'm trying to get out of you is that any belief that you hold, that you know of, right? Because we could have some implicit beliefs about things that we're not necessarily aware of at the front of our brains or whatever, right? But like certain beliefs, like your name is Mark, that's all right. That's not a really belief because you would know that, but like a belief that, I don't know, something that you believe that isn't necessarily knowledge. I can't tell you what that is for yourself, but like, maybe you believe that I believe that my dog loves me, right? I don't necessarily know that because like I'm not inside my dog's head, but that belief, I know that I have that belief, right?
Sure.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Even if you were to say that it's just a belief that I have that knowledge is possible, you're implicitly making a knowledge claim.
I don't know why you're arguing over this, because I sort of agreed to it, and then we're sort of going away from why is knowledge only possible exclusively under your Christian God.
Because I don't want to come back, make arguments and then come back to it and you say, well, I could just have a belief that knowledge is possible. So when you're saying that knowledge is possible, right? And you're saying the question is at a meta-epistemic level is to justify the existence of knowledge. How do you know that knowledge is possible? That's when people go back to empiricism. And I'm showing you that in an atheistic framework, empiricism is only justified by circular reasoning, which isn't a real justification.
Well, no, it's justified by direct sensory input. Like, we have a direct line to these senses. We don't have any choice over it. And in fact, it bypasses the mind altogether. The sensation of touching fire, for instance, we will jerk our hand back and it is not up to a belief or knowledge or any kind of thing. In fact, the response doesn't even come from the brain. It comes from the spine. It is built into you, 100% built into you. And so,
but here's the thing.
Yeah.
There are people that have hallucinations, right? And so they could be hallucinating a fire. And to them, it feels like they're sticking their hand in the fire, right? Mm-hmm. And they would have that same reaction. Their body would automatically pull their hand back. But they wouldn't be justified in saying, I know there's a fire there.
They would be justified, but it would not be true. Knowledge has two components, right? So
you're right.
It has justification and it has truth, right? Whether it is in fact ontologically true or in actuality true. So they could be justified in believing that there is a fire and then have knowledge, but it wouldn't be knowledge because it wouldn't be true. So you're missing the second quality.
No, because of Gettier cases, and we could get into them, the justification aspect.
Gettier cases, I just dropped them. It's not important. So
just
you're
like
talking
2K fallacies aren't.
No. You're talking about Gettier cases where it wasn't a tu quo quo, because you're saying that the only way around this. I'll just quickly talk about this. The only way around this problem of hard solipsism is a God. So me saying how do you get around it is not a tu quo quo. It's basically you framing the existence of the God, because you accuse my side of being invalid due to this hard solipsism, but I'm pointing out that you suffer from the same thing. So your possibility, like, that's not a tu quo quo.
That's the definition of a tu quo quo.
That is destroying your exclusivity of a God solving this problem. If there's no exclusive God solving this problem, then you're in exactly the same boat and you do not get exclusive rights to knowledge. But
if your atheistic worldview, I have to respond to that. I can't just let it go. Okay. If your atheistic worldview is true, you're stuck in this circle that entails hard solipsism. You're saying that's fine because you're stuck in the same circle that entails hard solipsism. So we have to kind of just forget about that because we can't solve it and come to a meeting ground, right?
And you're stuck in a circular argument as well.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the problem is, this is the thing. If your atheistic worldview is true, you're stuck in this problem. That qualifier, the condition, if, that's what I'm granting you. So you have to do the same here. If Christianity is true, that circle does not exist.
It does exist.
No, because I don't have to point to myself to justify my senses. I point to God. It's an escape of the circle.
And how do you know God is there? How do you know that's actually true?
Hold on. Is that an escape of the circle?
No, not if it leads back to God.
How not?
Because if it leads back to God, then you still have a circle. So if the reason why God exists is because God gets around this hard solipsism, and the hard solipsism is solved by God, it is a circle. You're going back to God, and then to yourself, then to God, then to yourself, then to God. No, it's not.
Yeah.
So
here's the thing.
How do you validate God in that little equation?
We ourselves don't validate God. God validates us. That's the issue.
Okay, so this is a problem because you're basically saying, I know a God is there because the God knows that I am there.
No, because of the impossibility of the contrary. You admitted, and we both agree.
Why is any contrary impossible?
And that's what I've been trying to get into. And whenever I get into it, you say you're running. And I'm not. I'm getting into the very meat of the conversation.
Okay, so why is a magical Blarney stone, which is a contrary to God, impossible?
Right. So it is interesting again here. You have to get rid of atheism because atheism can't solve the problem. Obviously.
Okay. Why
you have to introduce magic?
Let me change it then. Why is purely naturalistic processes impossible to be a justification for the senses?
Because if there's nothing you can point to outside of yourself to get you out of the circle like God, then you're stuck in circular reasoning. And it is illogical to think that justifies your epistemology.
That does not justify the God. That doesn't mean that it's impossible. You haven't shown it to be impossible. You've just said that you don't believe it.
All right. So are you okay with empiricism, or do we need to do something else? Because I'm going to ask you
that
in this
God
atheistic
actually
worldview.
exists. How do you know that God actually exists? What's the justification for it?
Right. Because just like we agreed earlier, we agreed that our senses must be reliable in order for us to know things. We also agreed that saying knowledge isn't possible is a contradiction. So when we're looking at those two things, if we have a worldview that can't justify why our senses are reliable, and yet we know that they must be reliable in order for us to have knowledge, then we must have a worldview that can justify the reliability of our senses. Atheism cannot do that. Christianity can. That's the entire argument.
Well, it's not that atheism cannot do that. It's justified by the direct sensory input that we get. And if, in fact, our senses are true, which you agree with, I've just got knowledge. Because you agree that our senses, my senses, are, for the most part, accurate and reliable. So you agree that is true. I justify it with the direct sensory input. And therefore, you've just agreed that I have knowledge. No God required.
No, you're saying, so we agree on the first order of things. The second order is where we disagree. You're saying that my senses are reliable because of my direct sensory experience.
Yes.
It's a circle.
So is yours.
See, here's the tu quoque again.
Yes, it's not a tu quoque because you're saying you are hinging the only thing that can escape a circle of, well, my senses seem to describe my senses. The only thing that can escape that is a God, and you haven't escaped it. You've just said, hey, I think that a God provides reliability. I know it's a God because it's a God. That's all you're saying.
No, I'm saying that if this is what we're doing, we're comparing the worldviews. If atheism is true, you're stuck in this circle. You just agreed. If Christianity is true, you're not stuck in this circle because I can point outside the circle. The circle that you're stuck in is you have to rely on yourself.
Look, you seem to misunderstand what a circular argument is. It doesn't have to be just one thing. If I say, hey, a God provides my senses. And I say, well, how do you know your God is providing the correct senses? Well, God tells me, or,
that's not the argument.
I go to the Bible, right? And how do you know the Bible is correct? Because Bible. I'm giving you an example of still a circular argument that is not just one entity. It's when the justification for one thing leads back to the other. So how do you know that a God has provided the sense data is accurate? How do you know that?
Right. Because, and that's what I thought you were giving me my argument back.
No.
to you.
I'm
Sorry.
just
That
giving
was-
you an example. But you're sort of going, well, I know that my senses are reliable because of God, right? That it comes from God. And how do you know God is the one providing you with that reliability? And you haven't given a justification. You've just said, well, I don't believe any other worldview can justify it. And that's it. You haven't actually shown your God to be the cause of it. You've just said, well, I don't, while still acknowledging, I might add, that my sense data is reliable, which is wild.
No, the only reason, so in reality, both of our sense data is reliable because Christianity is true. But I would say that I'm granting you the first order. Hold on. I'm granting you the first order because that the argument's not there. The argument's at the second order. Now, the reason, so I'm not in a circle saying that God is true because God is true or because he told me so. I'm saying that the only worldview that can account for our senses is the Christian worldview.
Yeah.
How do I know that? Every other worldview cannot do it. And in my opening statement, I got through the theistic ones that are similar to Christianity. Those are the only worldviews that are in the same ballpark. Outside of that, I showed why.
Why couldn't it be accounted for by a natural process?
Because you wouldn't be able to say, like, a natural process could not ground your knowledge. It can't give you knowledge.
Sure it can.
How can something that does not know anything grant you knowledge?
Well, it's justified. And if it's true, so here's the thing that you're missing, right? If I justify things with my senses and it's justified by my senses, you agree that my senses are giving me some sort of truth, because you're basically saying, yes, I believe your senses are accurate, right? So if I can justify it and you agree that it is in fact true, I have knowledge. What you're doing is just smuggling in, well, it all comes from God. And basically saying, well, it can't be natural explanations. It can't be. Well, I don't care if you grant it or not, but this is what I'm saying you're doing. It's called begging the question. Because what you're saying is that God providing knowledge, right? God providing knowledge is what justifies my God belief. So you're basically using God in your premises to justify a belief in God. You absolutely are.
That's exactly not what I'm doing. I gave you the syllogisms. Where in my syllogism did I do that? Point out the premise where I did that.
Let me have a look. Because it definitely is begging the question. So you said God accounts for the possibility of knowledge. You're starting with God.
Hold on, that's not in the syllogism here.
Yes, it was God accounts for the possibility of knowledge.
Is the necessary it's either Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, or knowledge is possible without Christianity. That one?
Yeah, so Christianity is the...
That's not
no, hang on a second. Christianity is the actuality of a God that rose from the dead, aka the Bible, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So that is putting in the premises Christianity. It's in the premises.
Yeah. Just because the word Christianity is in the premise doesn't mean that I'm stating that Christianity is true in premise one. I'm clearly not. I'm saying that either A is true or B is true. And that's what I'm saying is a disjunctive.
Yes. And it's a non sequitur. You have not shown that we cannot have senses or knowledge without a God.
Yes, I have.
All you've done is claim it and then refuse to demonstrate it. There's also another problem where you're basically saying that you begin with God. Do you begin with God in your epistemic chain?
Before we go on to that, because you can't just make the statement and not allow me to respond. You said that you agreed that your senses are unjustified.
No, I
said
that
you're stuck
justified.
In a circle. Yes, you said they're justified by your senses. And when I ask you about it, you do the tu quoque.
So you're going to hard solipsism, which is one of the hardest and most complex problems in all of philosophy. And here's the sleight of hand. All the theist does is say, because God, that solves it. It doesn't solve it. It doesn't justify why they think a God is responsible for all of these senses, and doesn't overcome the idea that you could be completely wrong about God. You could be deluded. You could be crazy. You could have made it up, couldn't you?
Okay. Let me ask you this. If
Well, no,
Christianity
I
is
asked
true,
you a
could we
question.
know?
Hold on. I asked you a question.
No, I couldn't
Could
be.
all of this just be made up in your... Why not? Why couldn't it just be your delusion?
Because if so, then knowledge wouldn't be possible. And that is a contradiction that cannot be true.
No, that's ridiculous. Like,
No, it's not.
if
Because you haven't
were
given me any
delusional-
reason to believe
if
your
you were
worldview justifies
delusional-
knowledge.
But just because knowledge is possible doesn't mean you have any, Alex.
No, yeah, that's exactly what it means.
No, it doesn't mean you have any. So
Yes,
you could be
because the
deluded.
statement, we already went
you
over
could be
this. You were-
deluded. Hang on a second, let me finish. You could be deluded, think knowledge is possible, have that knowledge in your head, which proves the statement true, and be wrong about God, your senses, the world, everything. You could be in the matrix right now, have no God, be wrong about everything, and knowledge is still possible. Correct?
No.
Why not?
No, that's a claim that you cannot prove.
Why not?
Prove it. You
Prove
made the
what?
claim. Prove it.
Prove what?
You said Christianity could be wrong and knowledge could still be possible. Prove that.
Yeah,
claim.
I said that could be. Yes.
Okay, prove it.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that's hard. What I'm describing is hard solipsism, Alex. Why don't you understand this?
Because your worldview entails hard solipsism. Mine does
No,
not.
it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'm not a hard solipsist, so stop saying that.
No,
it does not include
No,
hard solipsism.
I'm not saying you believe that you're a hard
what I'm
solipsist. I'm
saying
saying you're
is-
inconsistent with your
What
worldview.
I'm saying is that you prove to me that you are not deluded or crazy or in the matrix or one of the other hard solipsism things.
That's exactly what I've been doing this entire debate.
And you haven't.
That is what the syllogisms prove, and you haven't been able to poke a hole in any of the premises.
The syllogism is flawed. It's an absolutely
How?
flawed
Where?
syllogism.
Show me.
As I said, it's begging the question. You are putting God in
not.
there to validate the thing.
Okay.
You basically
Let's-
put
hold
up
on.
that
You're
knowledge is
accusing me-
only possible with the Christian God, and then run the syllogism from there. That is begging the question. You have not demonstrated. You're using the God to prove the God. You've just changed the name to Christianity. That's all.
You're accusing me of having syllogisms that are not valid, correct?
Or sound, yeah.
Okay, so if they're not valid, that means that because modus ponens and a disjunctive are both valid inference rules, correct?
Yes, but that doesn't mean that.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got to
Hold
understand the difference between validity
No.
and soundness. Validity
I
means
understand
that
the
it's
difference.
a logical syllogism.
Yeah.
Like you can make all
Right.
kinds of, this is for the audience. You can make all kinds of logical possibilities by running a syllogism, and it's logical, right? It runs by logical laws. That doesn't mean that it's a sound premises or sound
Correct.
conclusion. Okay, so
Agreed.
yeah.
Yeah. So if they're valid, that means that there are no logical fallacies within them, correct?
No.
No. So
No.
you can have a valid syllogism that
Yes.
consists of logical fallacies.
Yes, called informal fallacies. Do you understand the difference between formal and informal fallacies, Alex?
Can you show me where the logical fallacy is within my syllogism?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but you're begging the question by using Christianity instead of God in the premises, because you're just using a shorthand to say Christianity equals God. So if, like, you're basically saying the only way to account for knowledge is Christianity, and that equals God, you're already smuggling it in, and you know it.
No, I'm not.
So
you show me
formal, just
where
for
I'm
your
begging the
education, just for your education, formal fallacies
I
are a
don't need to be
violation.
educated.
Well, you don't seem to understand the difference between formal and
Can you
informal
show
fallacies.
me?
Can you
where the
maybe
begging
tell me the
question
difference
is?
between informal and formal fallacies?
We're
then?
not here for logic 101.
No, you can't.
Can you show me? Can you show me where begging the question is within the syllogism?
Do you know the difference between formal and informal fallacies?
Can you show me? Like, I'm not here to look up stuff for you.
You don't know,
do
you? Okay,
you
so a
show
formal
me-
fallacy is a violation of logic. It's
Are you
a
just not
violation
going to
of
interact
that
with the debate?
validity. Well, I'm just letting you know. A formal
You're
fallacy is
accusing me of a logical fallacy within my syllogism, and then refusing to show me where it is.
a violation of validity, and informal fallacy is a violation of soundness, right? Like, this is basic 101, as you said, and you can't seem to get it. So if I say, hey, there's a fallacy in there, it doesn't mean that the logic is flawed. It can be the soundness that's flawed, like a non sequitur. One doesn't lead to the other, right? Like, this is a problem that you have. If you think that just because it's logical, it has to work, that isn't the case. You have to
I'm not
actually
saying that at all.
demonstrate the truth or the likely truth of the premises. And when you don't do that, for instance, using Christianity as God and putting it in the premises, you are in fact begging the question. You are inserting something that has not been shown to be true.
Can you show me within the syllogism where the begging the question happens?
Yes, when you inserted Christianity as a conditional of one of the premises, of that being true
Okay.
for it to work.
Am I
Yes, that is.
stating that Christianity is true in premise 1 of the disjunct?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, Alex. I didn't write all of it down.
I'm sorry. I thought you did because I thought we went over. I thought that you had it in front of you. I'm sorry. But it is concerning that you're saying that you don't have the syllogism in front of you and then accusing me of a logical fallacy.
Just put it in chat then.
All right.
Because as far as I wrote down, it said God accounts for the possibility of knowledge. And you seem to think that was the only account.
Zoom chat's right here.
Yeah. But I mean,
this is the first one. This is the modus
I kind of would love to get off, your sort of thing and onto some of the problems with Christianity, like the problem of evil and things like that I brought up. That would be fantastic as well.
Yeah, that's fine. This is where you took the direction of the debate. You were asking me questions.
Yeah, so premise 2. Okay, so you basically said either Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, or knowledge is possible without Christianity. It is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity.
Yeah. Where's the begging the question?
Christianity is your God being put in there.
What do you mean?
Well, what's the conclusion? You don't even have a conclusion in there. Therefore, that's 3. Therefore, Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge. Yeah. So in number 2,
that's the conclusion.
You're saying it is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity.
Right.
That is begging the question.
No, it's not. It's a disjunct, dude.
Yes, it is.
It follows the law of excluded middle. If you're saying that that's begging the question, you're saying that the law of excluded middle is always begging the question.
No, I'm saying that you haven't shown that knowledge is possible. Only possible with Christianity. You have not shown that. You have not actually. So what you've basically done is say, hey, there's a really hard problem in philosophy. Nobody claims to have solved it, or nobody reputable in philosophy claims to have solved it. I'm going to basically say it's God, insert that into my premises, say, oh, because you've got this problem in philosophy that you can't solve, I win because reasons. And you have not actually demonstrated how you would be justified if you were in the matrix in some kind of hard solipsism fashion, how you would know that there is a God. And you have not actually overcome that.
If we were in the matrix in a hard solipsis thing, would knowledge be possible?
Yes.
Really?
Didn't you say it yourself that
no,
your beliefs would be knowledge? What you believe?
No.
Yes,
beliefs are different than knowledge.
You said that if you believe something, right? If I believe something, then that's knowledge of that belief. You sent it to a meta level.
No, yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. It's your own argument, Alex.
You're claiming knowledge. I said you're claiming knowledge.
You're
not justifying it with that.
No, you said yourself that if I believe that I'm hungry, for instance, and I'm in the matrix, I believe that I'm hungry. You yourself said that would be knowledge because it's justified and it's true.
No, it's actually not, because you said you would just drop Gettier cases.
100%.
No, can you let me talk? I'm trying to finish here.
That's not a Gettier case.
Can you let me talk without interrupting, please? I know it's hard. You're saying that you would just drop the Gettier cases because you can't solve them. I'm guessing that's the reason why.
No, that's not what that means.
All right. Well, the reason is because your justification has to be a legitimate justification for it to count as knowledge. That's the whole thing about Gettier cases. Yes. You have to have a true justification.
Yes.
So in the matrix, you're being fed this thought that you're hungry. So the justification for that belief.
No, you're actually hungry.
Are you hungry in real life? Or are you just hungry in the matrix?
Well, your body is still the same in the matrix, Alex. No. So you're hungry. Your body is hungry.
So everything you feel in the matrix, you actually feel in real life.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so you can be hungry in the matrix and not hungry in real life.
But that means knowledge is possible, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. That's your criteria.
That would not be knowledge.
Do I have to be justified? If my body was simply plugged into a artificial construct And like I was just going through, and that is a hard statistic. It's how do you know your senses are correct? My body could still be hungry. I would be justified because I feel that. Well, just say,
but
well,
if
yeah. Hang on a second, Alex. Let's not quibble over terms here. No. Let's not quibble over terms here, because when I say you could be hungry, you will get hungry, because that's what humans do, Alex. Don't be pedantic
not if you're
and
fed
shallow.
up to a
now, right? You have a case where knowledge is possible and everything else is wrong. Now prove that that's not the case.
No, I don't grant that knowledge is possible in that situation. I just explained to you why.
You don't grant that knowledge is possible, even though my body is hungry. It's justified,
in this situation,
and it's actually true. That's not knowledge.
But you're in the Matrix. You wouldn't be able to know if that's just your belief in the Matrix or if you're actually hungry.
You wouldn't be able to know if that's your belief in the Matrix or you're just hungry, really.
In this hypothetical situation where you're hooked up to a machine that's feeding you your thoughts, yes, your thoughts could be wrong.
So is it justified while you're in there? Is it justified?
No,
it's not justified.
No.
So you think that people in the Matrix know they're in the Matrix, so it's not justified?
What? Who said that?
Look, when you're in there, you just get hungry. It's a justified belief, right? Is it actually true, Alex? Is it true?
One, it's not true nor justified.
Well, the condition of my hypothetical is that you are actually, your body is hungry while you're in there. So is it justified? Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Why isn't it justified? If I'm going through life and I feel hungry,
justification is a reason, right?
You have done a complete 180
from this is because you don't understand Gettier cases.
If I have, it's not a Gettier case.
Yeah, it's very similar.
What is
it's
a Gettier
extremely
case?
Similar.
What is a Gettier case, Alex?
I can give you an example of a Gettier case. I probably won't be able to define exactly what a Gettier case is. So one of the Gettier cases is that you're passing a bunch of houses on the street, and you see all these houses, and the 10th house you pass, every house you say, oh, all these houses are real. The 10th house you say, yeah, that's a real house. Now the 10th house is actually real and it's there, but you would be seemingly justified to say this is a real house because you just saw nine more real houses. But the problem is those previous 9 houses were holograms. So the justification isn't valid, because what you actually saw, if you were to stop at the 9th house, you would use the same justification to say this is a real house, but you would be wrong. So therefore the justification is invalid. So in this hypothetical, you don't know. So you have, say in this hypothetical, you are actually hungry.
Well, hold on a second, Alex. Let me respond to that, because I think sort of explaining it, Gettier cases are where you are mistaken about the causation that led to the justification. For instance, if you just have you think that someone is a murderer because they probably play chess, right? And just say they don't play chess, but they're still a murderer, right? So you don't actually, your justification was not correct in the first place. I take the position I would drop those cases. I think they are not knowledge, and that's what I mean by drop those cases, that they are not in fact knowledge, right? That so if you just have,
I misunderstood you. I apologize.
Okay, if you just have a lucky guess, I would drop those from the category of being knowledge. You would not have the knowledge. But in my example, you're plugged into the Matrix, your body is hungry. You actually have a justification, and it is a real justification that your body is hungry in my example, right? You would believe that you're hungry, it would be justified, and that is in fact true. So that counts as knowledge. It's not a Gettier case.
This is how it compares to the Gettier case. So you said you would drop the Gettier cases. So like that 10th house is, you actually, even though it's real, it's true that it's there, because your justification is false, it wouldn't be knowledge, right?
Correct.
All right. So that's the same thing with this hypothetical situation you brought up, because even though your body in real life could be hungry, and that could be the current justification for your belief that you're hungry, there are other times where the Matrix is telling you you're hungry where you're not really hungry, correct?
No.
Why not? You just so you're just making a hypothetical that's impossible. You're saying that every time you feel hungry is never the Matrix telling you you're hungry in this hypothetical.
Right. Your body just
so then you're not in the Matrix.
Well, your body just works through energy and you get hungry, but everything
Yeah.
else is not real. Okay,
So you're
everything
hooked
else
up
is
to a
not real. Well,
machine.
let me finish. Apart from your bodily functions, so when you feel like you need to go to the toilet, that's when your body is actually processing everything, and you feel like you're going to the toilet. So, through
Okay,
all
so
of this, like it is just your bodily functions that is the only things. All other senses are overridden. But the question was, in that example, how do you justify that you know that a God exists?
what do you mean? If
That
you
was
were
the
in the
original question.
Matrix,
Yes.
if you were in the Matrix, how would you justify that a God exists? You wouldn't be able to.
Mhm.
If you're in the Matrix.
That's hard solipsism.
No,
Congratulations, you got there.
no, that's exactly why we know we're not in the Matrix. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to.
We know we're not in the Matrix because God.
Yes. Do you know you're not in the Matrix, Mark?
No, I've got no way around hard solipsism. How do you know you're not
Exactly.
in the Matrix right now?
Because if we were in the Matrix, knowledge would not be possible. The hypothetical you gave is not the Matrix. It's where part of you is in the Matrix, but part of you is not.
But how do you know that it's a God that overrides that? How do you know?
What do you mean? How do you know? Because of the impossibility of contrary. This is the entire argument.
But I just gave a scenario of somebody being in the Matrix and having knowledge.
No,
Would you
they're
agree
not.
that that person?
No, part of their sense experience is coming from the real world. So they're not in the Matrix.
That is the Matrix, yes.
No. Okay.
But how
So
would you get around that? How do you know that that God exists in that scenario?
Part of their experience comes from the real world, but the part that does is never wrong.
The part that does is never wrong.
Their sensory experience that comes from the real world is never wrong in your hypothetical.
Is never wrong?
Correct.
Okay. So how do you know that a God is doing that?
Right, because the axiom there is that your senses are never wrong, and that would be an unjustified axiom in this.
Well, I don't accept your axiom of God. You're just basically saying
it's not
God,
an axiom. It's justified.
It's not justified because I can say that just a naturalistic progression can justify that guy in the Matrix as well. His body is just working according to natural processes, right, and that causes it as well. That justifies his knowledge without any other God. Well, because he feels it, right? That's the justification. It is in fact true. That does it without any God whatsoever, and you have not linked it to a God.
How would he know if it's true?
You need to show that the God is the only thing that can provide that knowledge.
How would he know if it's true in this hypothetical?
How would he know it's true?
Yep.
He wouldn't.
You just said he knows it because it's true and he has justification.
No, I said that his knowledge claim is true. Ontologically true.
So his knowledge, all right, so he doesn't have knowledge then?
He has knowledge, yes.
You just said he didn't, Mark.
He has knowledge that
and like, how would he know?
Know, what do you mean by know?
You said that he would, like, how would he know that his experience is true?
Yes, he would know because he has a justified true belief. You're looping back on yourself. No. You're saying, oh, it has to be true to be knowledge. And then
the justification is the senses.
No, hold on. You're saying that it has to be true to be knowledge. And then you're saying, well, you have to know it for it to be true. Why, what are you talking about?
Well, no, I'm saying that knowledge is possible. That's the claim here, that you said he would be able to say and justify in this hypothetical. When I ask you, how would he know that knowledge is possible? You said based on his sensory experience. And then you have already admitted that it's a giant circle with your sensory experience, correct?
No, it's not based on his sensory experience. So I still don't get how this gets to a God. Like, you have not given any information about your God at all.
So I'll go both ways. The prompt for this debate is which is true, atheism or Christianity. Christianity gives you a reason to believe that your senses are reliable, that is not circular. Atheism does not. Now, you want to bring up all of these other hypotheticals about the Matrix, about gods that are rocks and stuff like this. That's fine. Okay. I've showed you why those have failed over and over again.
So just say everything is an illusion, right? How would you know that a God exists?
If everything was an illusion, would that
Mhm.
include this idea of God?
Would that include the idea of God? Of course.
Okay, so in this hypothetical where everything is an illusion, there would be no God.
Well, you said that to have knowledge, you need a God. If God's an illusion,
Yeah, so
how do
if
you?
everything is an illusion, then
Mhm.
knowledge is not possible. Knowledge
Well,
not being possible is a contradiction.
well, knowledge is still possible.
I'm not saying knowledge is possible like it's an
Do you
ethereal
want
thing
me
out
to?
there
Do
that
you,
you can
do you
have.
want me to give you an example of how knowledge is possible without senses?
If everything was an illusion, or without, like, are we moving on?
Well, if everything's an illusion, that's all senses, right?
I guess so, yeah.
I think, therefore I am.
Come on, you can't. You know that's wrong, right? You know it's been debunked like 100 times by now.
Why is it wrong?
Because you're assuming the very thing you're trying to prove.
What do you mean?
I is the first thing you said.
Okay. So how
Right.
about I think thinking, therefore something. That's knowledge, and it's justified.
No, it's not.
No,
How do
it's
you
not.
know
How
thinking is
not?
going on?
How do I know thinking? Are you seriously getting to say,
Yes.
well, I could not be thinking and not like this is getting absurd. You're now going to, how
No.
do you know you are thinking?
Wait, you said hard solipsism is something you can't get past, right? That none of us can get past. All right. So would that get past hard solipsism?
Would that get past hard solipsism? That all
That
the world
thinking's going on?
No. It would not solve hard solipsism, which all the world around me is an illusion. But that doesn't talk about the world around me, Alex, and you know it.
All right. So thinking's going on, and that's a knowledge claim.
So do you think that if
answer my
I
question?
have
Answer my
thoughts,
question, please.
What's this question?
Thinking's going on is the knowledge claim.
Yes.
All right. Does there have to be a person for there to be knowledge?
Does there have to be a person to be knowledge?
Yes.
I don't know.
All right. So what is knowledge? A justified true belief.
Right.
Can
there
a
has to be a belief.
Yeah. Do you need to have a person to have a belief?
I don't know.
Okay. So beliefs can just float around in the ether.
I don't know. Under hard solipsism, we don't know
so
anything.
I don't
but
know
this is the whole
also
point.
So you're saying I don't know, so then you don't have knowledge.
Yeah, this is getting into sort of this is the
entailment of your
hideaway. This is the hideaway of the presuppositionalist is hard solipsism.
No, this is
how
the
do you know
entailment of
anything
atheism.
can work? Then they just insert God to solve hard solipsism, which doesn't, because Alex can't explain.
You can monologue
how
during your closing.
Well, look, under your worldview, you cannot demonstrate any kind of God, and saying the impossibility of the contrary. The only contrary isn't atheism. There can be other contraries out there. And you haven't shown that it's impossible that this world is actually real, right? Because solipsism says, hey, we can't prove for sure that this is the case. But that doesn't mean that this world is false. And here's the thing, Alex, you agree with me that this world is not an illusion. So I have justification, and you agree that it's true. No, I do have justification.
Consensus doesn't mean truth.
I never said it was consensus.
You said it was me and your consensus.
Well, what I'm pointing out is the hypocrisy of somebody that agrees that I have knowledge of the world around me and then tells me that I believe that the world is an illusion, which is the hard solipsistic position. So you're just misrepresenting what I think in order to justify a God belief.
Never said you believe in hard solipsism. I'm saying your beliefs are inconsistent with your worldview because your worldview entails hard solipsism.
My worldview doesn't entail hard solipsism.
Okay, but can you admit that I've never said that you believe in hard solipsism?
My worldview is what I believe about the world around me. You can't even admit that? My worldview is what I believe about the world around me. And I do not, just for the record, believe that this world is an illusion, as Alex is trying to make out. So the way that I live and my worldview are completely consistent, even though he wants to say it's not.
No, so listen, I've never said that you believed in hard solipsism, correct?
You said that it is the entailment of my worldview.
Right. Can someone be inconsistent? Like, you think that there are entailments of my worldview that are not true, right?
Entailments of your worldview that is not true. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I would say that I don't believe those things, right?
What do you mean?
So like, all right, there are things that I believe that you would say are a contradiction.
Possibly.
Okay. I don't believe they're contradictions, right? So when you say this belief you have is a contradiction, I'm not going to sit there and say, don't misrepresent my beliefs. I don't believe that. You're not saying I believe that. You're saying I'm mistaken, that I don't understand that it's a contradiction.
No,
That's
no,
what I'm saying of your worldview.
But I'm not saying that your worldview entails a sort of, necessarily this thing. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not
You're
saying
not.
Christianity entails you believing in a magic sky daddy, for instance. That's not what I'm doing. That's a straw man.
Would you say that a belief in God is
So,
contradictory to
do you
reality?
understand that hard solipsism is a belief that the world is an illusion around us? Do you understand that?
Sure.
Okay, so when you say that my worldview entails hard solipsism, do you understand that you're saying that my worldview entails a belief?
No, I'm saying that.
Okay, that's weird.
I'm saying that your worldview. Yes. All right. I guess that's fair. Your worldview entails a belief, but you don't hold this belief because you're inconsistent with your own worldview. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm not inconsistent with worldview. I think
Yes.
that my senses are justified and it is in fact true, which you basically would agree with.
No.
But then you just basically go, well, because you can't absolutely with 100% certainty demonstrate that this world isn't an illusion, which I would agree with. I can't with absolute certainty demonstrate that. Then you basically are living in, like this is an illusion, and that's not correct. I don't believe that. I think I have a justified belief that my senses are true, and I think that that is a true belief. You're just coming along and saying, hey, because you can't 100% prove that this world is not an illusion, and neither can you, then God. And that is ridiculous.
No. So what you're doing is the same. You're saying that all worldviews entail hard solipsism.
No, I'm saying that all worldviews cannot overcome the problem of hard solipsism.
So if it can't overcome that problem, then why do you just dismiss it?
Because we all have confidence that this is the world is real. And we have confidence in that largely because of our senses. You're coming along and saying, well, the senses we only have confidence in it because of God.
So
and you haven't justified that.
Problem.
You haven't
if there's a philosophical
that.
problem in your worldview, you just dismiss it, as long as other worldviews hold that same philosophical problem.
No, I take a level of confidence based upon the evidence that I have. And because I've got a justified... don't tell me what I do and I don't, Alex. That's just rude, man. I don't say, what the hell? Yes, I take a confidence level of what is true and what is not true based upon the available evidence. Yes, I do. That is exactly what I do. You might go, oh, well, faith, I've got faith in God. Well, I don't do that.
No, you just have faith in your senses your senses are reliable.
Well, no, I have confidence in them. They are the direct...
Ready? This is from Side 10 Brudenkate. Confide with faith.
Yeah, so that's called an etymological...
People in the audience will know
that's called an etymological fallacy, which Sci10 never picked up on. It's basically using the old meaning of a word and using that word to make it something else. It's like the whole idea... Hang on a sec. It's like the whole idea that placenta means cake so you can eat it. That is basically where the word comes from. It's old Latin for cake.
Joke.
Yeah, but Sci10 has used this seriously in the past, and so are you.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, what gives you confidence?
What gives me confidence?
Yeah.
The evidence that I have.
Okay.
What gives
is that
you
a
confidence?
Justification? Is that a justification?
Yes.
So as long as you have confidence in something, you have a justification for it.
I didn't say that. I said evidence.
Yeah. So as long as you have evidence that gives you confidence, then you have a justification for it. Okay. I have evidence of God.
Okay. Right? What evidence do you have?
The evidence is that I feel him. That's my evidence. You
feel him.
Right. And that evidence gives me confidence. Therefore, I'm justified in my belief in God. That's what you just did.
Okay.
So then
Okay.
there we go. God exists. I'm justified in my belief in God.
Wow,
God
you
exists.
really do not understand this two-part thing of knowledge, do you?
Okay.
So you
Well,
have a belief in God.
hold
You
on.
say it's hang on. You say it's justified.
Mhm.
The second part, Alex, is it actually true?
Yeah.
Right.
And what makes
So
it true?
do you have
What,
knowledge
how do you
of
know
God?
it's true? You have true justification for it, right?
What do you mean? Like if it's
If
ontologically
you have
true.
valid justification for something, then it is
You're,
true.
you're basically describing the school of epistemology, how we justify our knowledge
All right,
claims.
exactly.
How do
So
we go
confidence.
to... Hang on, let me finish. What reliable way do we have to, in fact, show things are true? And I'll give you a hint, Alex. It's not mucking around with these syllogisms, inserting Christianity as God at the start, and then saying, because this is the case, and because there's problems in philosophy, suddenly I'm justified in believing what I believe and it's absolutely true. No, that is not the way we do it. We go out and get evidence.
So rather than mucking around with syllogisms and logic, we just need to have confidence, right? Based on, we can have whatever evidence we want. As long as that evidence gives us confidence, we're justified in our beliefs. Correct?
No,
That's what you just said. Roll the tape. You just said it.
I didn't say that. I said evidence justifies confidence, and I have a lot of evidence that I have senses. Do you think I don't have senses? Do you agree with that? That I have senses?
What?
Do you agree that I
Yes.
have senses? And you
Listen,
agree
this
that
is the
the
mistake
senses
you've been
are
making
reliable?
all night. Just because we agree on something doesn't mean you have justification for it. You've been making that mistake all night.
But I don't understand why you would be arguing to the contrary. It seems like you're just trying to railroad this into hard solipsism to sink the debate because you have no evidence for God. You have provided nothing to support evidence for God. You have simply used fallacies to make a syllogism that does not work, to sort of say, hey, Christianity is God. It's only possible. Knowledge is only possible with God. Not showing any other actual evidence at all, just this sleight of hand. It's ridiculous.
All right, look, this is what happened. Let's say we went to the park, right? I picked you up down in Australia. I think that's where you are. Would that be up? Yep. I'm bad with geography. I don't know. I'm an American.
It is south of the United States. I will say that right now.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're American here, right? Our public school system is not great. Anyway, I go down to Australia. I fly in, I drive, I pick you up, and we go out for tea. Do they do tea in Australia, or is that just an England thing?
That's just an England thing. Go do tea.
You guys like coffee?
Yeah, I like coffee.
All right. We go out to coffee, right? Yeah. I go to pick you up, and you're like, oh, nice car, man. Yeah, it's a rental. This thing just popped into existence out of nowhere. You're like, that's silly. I mean, obviously there was an engineer, like there was a factory that put this thing together. Don't be ridiculous, Alex. I say, no, dude, like it really, like, you agree that the car's here, right? But we have completely different ideas of how the car got there, right? So just because we both agree that the car is there doesn't mean that the justification of how the car got there we can agree on. That's what happened. Just because we both agree that your senses are reliable doesn't mean that we have the same justification for it. I'm saying I do, and I'm saying you don't.
Yeah, so I reject that completely. I think that is just a bold assertion with no actual substance to back it up. Well, because the way that we usually find out if something is true, or the most reliable way we have found, is through a process of, again, like in my opening, falsification. We actually check to see if something can be falsified. So your claim that knowledge is possible only with Christianity, it's another one of those unfalsifiable claims. You're just claiming it and have not actually demonstrated it.
Come on, man. You could falsify it. Just give me a justification for knowledge that doesn't include Christianity.
Natural processes.
Okay, so natural processes give you knowledge. How?
Well, if this world is not an illusion, and I believe things with justification, I have knowledge, as long as they're true, and you agree that they're true. So I have knowledge.
No, again, you're making the same mistake I just gave you the example of with the car. Just because I agree that your conclusions are true does not mean you have a justification for them. Come on, Mark.
Yes, but you're basically saying that because God is the thing that creates knowledge, that is the securer of knowledge, or however you phrased it, is the possibility of knowledge, provides the possibility of knowledge, that means that it cannot be natural causes.
Right.
Right. So that's a circular argument.
Okay. No, because if
Yes,
there
it is.
were some natural cause to give you knowledge, there couldn't be, because a natural cause does not contain knowledge. Something that does not contain knowledge can't give you knowledge.
What?
Yeah.
What do you think that knowledge is?
Knowledge is a justified true belief.
So you're saying that I can't have a belief without something intelligent giving it to me. Is that seriously your claim?
That you can't have a foundation for knowledge.
What?
Yeah.
You're making no sense whatsoever. You basically said I cannot have knowledge without something intelligent giving it to me. Is that correct?
A justification for knowledge.
Okay, so nothing can have a justification for knowledge without another intelligent thing giving it that justification. Is that correct?
That's the entire argument.
Fantastic. Does God have knowledge?
Does God have knowledge? Not in the sense that we have knowledge.
Does God have knowledge? So God has no
knowledge.
knowledge. So God has no knowledge.
God is the source of knowledge.
So it has no knowledge itself. It just is the source. It doesn't give it to itself.
It's an incoherent question.
Why?
Does water have water?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, does God have knowledge? Is God omniscient?
Not in the sense that we do.
Is God omniscient?
God doesn't have beliefs.
God doesn't have beliefs. So he has no knowledge.
No, I'm not. He's a source of knowledge. What he actualizes is true.
So he has no knowledge. He has no justified true beliefs.
He's the source of knowledge. It's
well, God's not intelligent. He has no beliefs.
Okay.
He's got no knowledge. He's got nothing. Like, I don't know how you would justify an intelligent thing without any knowledge at all or beliefs at all. Like, what is that?
Because God is completely different than a human. He doesn't have knowledge the same way we do. So he's the source of knowledge.
So this is something called special pleading. It's a certain thing. So
because
in order, excuse me, in order for this to work, you've got to say, does the Bible say that God has knowledge?
The Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of, I don't know. So omniscience is usually sort of referred to as a quality of God. Is that what you agree with? Do you agree with that?
That God could not be wrong about anything?
Well, omniscience.
Like there's nothing that God doesn't
omniscience
isn't aware of. Omniscience, like
yes.
Yeah.
Do you agree that God is omniscient? Do you know that omniscience means all-knowing?
Yeah, but it's not. Again, it's not the sense that God knows things like we do. That's what I've been saying. God is the source of knowledge. The reason God knows things, right?
God does know things.
In a colloquial sense. The reason that God knows things is because he actualized them.
Okay, so God knows things, but he doesn't know things.
Colloquial speaking in human terms.
Yeah, so this seems to me like special pleading. It's basically saying, hey, all knowledge comes from an intelligent being, except God, he's a special case. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's so you know that special pleading is a fallacy?
So hold on. In order for God to exist, he must be like us. Otherwise, it's special pleading.
No. Either God has knowledge or he does not have knowledge.
So God
hang on a second. That's a question. Does God either is it a true dichotomy that God either has knowledge or does not have knowledge?
Sure, God has knowledge.
God has knowledge. So with your argument, it needs, and you are very firm on this, it needs an intelligent being to give knowledge. Then where did God get his knowledge from if it needs an intelligent being?
That's like saying, where does the source of existence get its existence from? It's an incoherent.
You aren't answering my question. You made it a hard statement to say, hey,
Wait.
Knowledge requires an intelligence to get that knowledge from. You said that categorically. And now I'm asking you, if God has knowledge, what intelligent being did he get that knowledge from?
That's,
and you're saying,
like saying who created God. That's Reddit tier atheism.
Okay, so that
Reddit
means
tier.
that your statement of needing an intelligent being to get knowledge from is false, because there is
other
that
than
is
the
being
source of
falsified
knowledge.
by your own. Oh, other than
In
the
order
source of knowledge.
For a human to get knowledge, I think he froze. I don't want to talk if he's not here.
Sorry?
Sorry, you froze. I stopped talking because I didn't know if you could hear me.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm still here. I'm still here. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. I would say, in order for a human to get knowledge from something, that something has to be an intelligent agent. That's not true of God.
I think you've just proved.
If you want to call that special pleading, that's fine. But I mean,
I think you've just proved that. Well, yeah, it is special pleading. It's saying that, hey, there is this case that in order to get knowledge, you need it from a intelligent being, but there is a special exception that I make for God, and that is basically your proof that God is the one providing this knowledge, instead of just we provide it to ourselves by purely naturalistic means. I think I know which one I would think is correct.
If you want to say humans being different than God is special pleading, I'll leave that up to the audience. That's fine.
Well, no, it's your category of you need an intelligent being to get knowledge, and then you say, well, God doesn't do that.
Otherwise, you can't have knowledge, and we've proven that this entire debate.
Well, you haven't proven anything. You've made a bunch of claims.
Your justification for the reliability of your senses is it just is,
so
bro.
Trust me, bro. Can you prove that you need an intelligent being to give you knowledge?
Yes, because of the impossibility of the contrary. If
and
you
the
don't,
impossibility
then you can't have knowledge.
And the impossibility of the contrary exists because it requires God, correct?
What, could you say that again?
The impossibility of the contrary is because the contrary can't be true because it requires a God, correct?
No, the impossibility, I mean, you could put it that way, but the impossibility of the contrary is that any worldview, every one that we've discussed tonight, and we could keep on going for hours and hours, cannot actually provide a justification, a meta level justification for its epistemology.
Okay, so if there was a one that had a magical Blarney stone that beamed knowledge magically into your head, that would be knowledge coming to you magically, but no intelligent agent involved.
Right, that would be impossible.
Why?
How does something non-intelligent give you intelligence?
Well, it doesn't give you intelligence, it gives you knowledge.
Okay, so how does something with no knowledge give you knowledge?
Well, it just magically does it.
Okay. I mean, you should be a blondist then, right?
A what?
Because atheism definitely can't give you an answer. That's what you're saying. I have to run to this ridiculous hypothetical about a magic rock because atheism can't give me anything.
I'm sorry. I thought you said no other possible worldview could give it to you. Now you're sort of saying that one doesn't count?
No, it can't, and I just explained why. I'm just pointing out that it's hilarious that you run from atheism when you need to give an account.
So you're incorrect, that the contrary actually is possible, that it could be a magic rock. Why not?
No, it literally could not, because a non-intelligent being cannot give you knowledge. It's ridiculous.
Why not?
Because it has no knowledge.
It has. So
how can something give you something without having it?
Well, I don't think that knowledge is like we give something gives it to us. I think that we form a belief ourselves, and that is justified and true. I don't understand why we would need. I don't understand why we would need something beaming it into our heads. Now, of course, you can communicate knowledge, but you're saying that is the only way to get knowledge. Okay, let's separate here from being able for someone to communicate knowledge as opposed to the only way you can get any knowledge is if someone beams it to you.
A justification for knowledge. A meta level justification.
So the Blarney stone couldn't make a justification for knowledge. Can you prove that, please?
Yes. Could the magic blondie stone be wrong?
No.
Okay. Do you know why it can't be wrong?
Do I know it's magic?
Right, because it doesn't know anything.
Because it's magic.
Okay. So your reason is just cuz.
What do you mean just cause?
You said it's magic. Just because this magic that we know absolutely nothing about, it hasn't been revealed to us, therefore we can't know it.
Oh, the irony, Alex.
You're saying that something without a mind reveals something.
You know what it reminds me of, Alex? Because
your entailment of hard solipsism?
Because God. That's what you're doing. Because God. That's
so
exactly
God
you have stumbled on exactly the same argument. He doesn't have any knowledge, or he does. I forget. Where are you going to come down on now?
So can you gain knowledge from the source of knowledge?
Can I gain knowledge from the source? I don't think there is the source of knowledge. I think that knowledge is a doxastic state. It is basically when you believe something that is in accordance with certain things that are true. Like, I don't think it is this thing that exists somewhere out there in the ether and gets beamed to you. I don't even understand what this is. But you've sort of said
you don't have knowledge.
Well,
you don't possess knowledge.
You still haven't shown that any of the contraries are impossible. You've just claimed because God, they are impossible.
What about atheism? Did we not show that your justification for your senses, which you claim can give you knowledge, are
no?
All right, so circular reasoning is completely fine, right, Mark?
Is it? You've done circular
reasoning
you said. All debate.
Okay, so did you not have circular reasoning when justifying your senses? Can you answer my question, Mark? Did you not have circular reasoning to justify your senses?
No.
Okay. How?
Because my senses are a direct input into my system. I cannot avoid feeling them. It's not that I rely on them to be correct. I know they can be false. I know that I can see a mirage and it is not true, even though I believe it. I don't take this all or nothing. Excuse me, can I finish talking?
You're not answering
I'm not taking this black and white. If I don't, no, I'm explaining. I don't take this black and white. I have absolute certainty or I have no certainty whatsoever.
I never said that.
I have a justification. I have a justification in my senses.
The question is, how do you know your senses are reliable? And you say, they just are.
No, I didn't.
They're direct experience. They have to be reliable.
What do you mean they have to be reliable? Oftentimes they're not.
That's the question I asked you. How do you know your senses are reliable? Answer the question.
They are the most reliable senses that I have.
So you just did exactly what I said you did. That's really good gaslighting, Mark.
Yeah, but this is hard solipsism. You're dragging us down this thing. How do you know your senses are reliable? How do you know your senses are reliable? You're just trying to put it on me. This is too quoque. How do you know your senses are reliable?
You're denying circular reasoning, and then when I call you out on it, you say, yeah, but you have circular reasoning too. Can you just admit when you're wrong, Mark? Or is that a problem for you?
No, it's because this problem, hard solipsism, has been, how do you know your senses are reliable?
Why is it a problem?
Why won't you answer me? How do you know your senses are
all
reliable?
Throughout the debate.
No,
you're dodging right now. Yes, I have.
No, you
You're
haven't.
dodging right now because
you've just said,
why is it a problem?
That's your answer.
Why is it a problem?
How do you know your senses are reliable?
How
do you know your senses are reliable?
The impossibility of
I can go closer to my microphone too, Alex. How do you know your senses are reliable?
Because
because God. Because God.
All right, yeah, you don't want an answer. You just want to yell.
No, go for it. Go for it. I'll settle down. Go for it.
Yeah. All right. The reason I know that my senses are reliable is because if they weren't, we wouldn't be able to have knowledge. But the reason that we can justify that is because Christianity is true, because there is a God who has created us. That's why your worldview is left with this hard solipsism problem that you don't think anybody else can get over.
No, don't talk about my worldview. No. We want to investigate yours. This is the switch.
I know,
you basically scram past it. But I demonstrated that your senses could be false and you can still have knowledge, which completely decimates your claim that only God
can leave
does
that up
it
to the audience.
Well,
you just admitted. Actually, you won't admit it. I don't know why.
I'm just honest, and I will admit that hard solipsism is a problem. But you will just go, my senses are accurate because God. That's your argument.
Admit it. If
Admit
you're so
what?
honest, admit it right now. You're using circular reasoning to justify your senses.
No, I'm not.
All right, yeah, you're not honest.
The
You like to
justification
pretend that
comes
you're honest.
from, no, if you want to call them properly basic beliefs, that I have a direct line to my senses, that is something I can acknowledge, right? That
Are properly
the
basic beliefs
senses
justified?
form before my mind and my beliefs do. Okay?
Are properly
Before I
basic
even
beliefs
have
justified?
beliefs, my senses are formed, right?
Are
And my
just throw out
beliefs-
this term properly basic beliefs as if it solves the problem, and it doesn't.
You trust God like it solves the problem, and it doesn't.
Oh wait, but you don't have a problem with that then?
Problem
do
with
you?
what?
If I treated God as a properly basic belief, would you have a problem with that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. So you can just have properly basic beliefs, but I can't.
Oh,
See the
look,
hypocrisy?
you can believe it. You can believe it, but what?
Right, but it's not
Why
justified,
is
right,
it a
Mark?
properly basic
Mark?
belief? Why is it a properly
Your
basic
senses
belief?
aren't justified, right, Mark?
Look, we're going down this stupid hard solipsism thing that you don't have an answer for either.
Because you won't admit it.
If
You
you
said you're
do,
honest.
publish your answer in philosophy and solve hard. This problem has
I
been
don't
around.
have to.
Hang on, I'm talking. Just let me talk.
Okay. go
This
ahead.
problem has been around in philosophy, just for the audience, for thousands of years. No one's ever been able to solve it in philosophy. Alex is coming out and saying, I solve it because God, but won't publish it, won't send it to anybody, won't claim it, because that is laughed at within philosophical circles. He has not justified by saying, cause God, it can't be an illusion. That is not a thing. Nobody believes it. It is laughable. The whole idea that it's impossible for the contrary to be true hinges upon God being true. So basically he's saying God is the only answer because it excludes everything else. Everything else is excluded because it is God. That is his argument. It is a circular argument.
The reason I haven't published a paper is because I don't have a PhD in philosophy.
Don't need one.
Well, I'm not going to publish philosophical papers. I would be able to write a philosophical paper. James knows that. He's got a PhD. James could write a philosophical paper, not me. Or
you'd write a psychology one.
Yeah. Now, patristic.
We are going to jump into the Q&A shortly, folks. So if you happen to have any questions for Mark or for Alex, feel free to fire them into the old live chat. You can either do that via super chat or via a standard chat if you tag me with @ModernDayDebate. Although we've got a good amount of questions and we do read the super chats first. So heads up that whether or not we have time, we're going to try to move fast once we do it. We're going to give you guys cool with maybe 2-minute wrap ups?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind me, we started with Alex. So why don't we start with Alex and then Mark will conclude for the conclusions. So Alex, floor is yours for 2 minutes.
All right, 2 minutes. Not a lot of time, but I will take it. Again, formally, the argument goes like this. If knowledge is possible, then Christianity is true. Knowledge is possible, therefore Christianity is true. The justification for P1, either Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge, or knowledge is possible without Christianity. It is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity. Therefore, Christianity is a necessary condition for the possibility of knowledge. Mark was not able to provide a reason why the syllogism is not valid. I understand he doesn't think it's sound. Obviously, if he did, he would be a Christian. The reason he doesn't think it's sound is probably premise 2, I think. I can't remember, but of the disjunct. It is not the case that knowledge is possible without Christianity. For the prompt of this debate, he was not able to provide a reason why atheism can give us knowledge. He likes to rely on his senses, and he said he was an honest man. He said he'd like to admit that he has philosophical problems because every worldview has philosophical problems. The problem is when I asked him in front of the audience tonight to admit that he was obviously using circular reasoning for his justification of the reliability of his senses, he would not admit it. But then he goes on to claim that hard solipsism is a problem. The reason that hard solipsism is a problem for these worldviews is because when you try to validate the reliability of your senses, it ends in circular reasoning. That's why hard solipsism is a problem. So atheism cannot give you knowledge. Christianity can. That's all I got. Thank you, James. Thank you, Mark.
Floor is yours, Mark. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, this is kind of frustrating. It's kind of, I didn't actually get any of my questions answered or go into any of my evidences that God isn't real. It was just hard solipsism, doubt that the world is true, doubt that everything that we see around us exists, and nobody really seriously believes that. Presuppositional apologetics is like the Steven Seagal of arguing. It's basically a lot of claims, no actual demonstration. And that's exactly what we saw here from Alex. It was just because God, hard solipsism isn't a problem. It's not a thing. He said that I couldn't have knowledge without my senses. I know I exist. That doesn't require my senses. I know that I feel a certain way. That doesn't require my senses. There's a lot that I know that doesn't require my senses. And when I gave the cognito ergo sum, he's like, well, how do you know that? Well, it's justified. And if it is true, he keeps forgetting the part of knowledge that if it is true, and just takes God to be true and says everything contrary to that belief is incorrect because of the impossibility of the contrary. But it's a circular argument. He's basically saying because God is the thing that does all of this, then any contrary is impossible. The contrary is impossible because God is the reason for this. It is absolutely viciously circular. He just thinks that, hey, if I just put a bit of wording around it, like Christianity instead of God, I can overcome it. And he can't. I showed that you can have knowledge without your senses. I don't 100% rely on them, so that falls down. He hasn't demonstrated that knowledge is impossible under any other worldview. He's just claimed it and then basically said, well, because hard solipsism is a problem, well, guess what? If hard solipsism is untrue and this world is not an illusion, which I think we all believe because you're sitting here listening to me, then what happens then is I do have knowledge because it's justified and it's actually true. He wants to prey on the, well, you can't 100% with certainty, show that it's true. Well, yeah, but if this world is an illusion, then I don't have the knowledge that I think I do. But that's the least of my problems if this world is an illusion. But he doesn't think that. He just wants to insert this silly little problem to say, 'cause God.
Thank you very much for those openings, gentlemen. We're going to jump into the Q&A. I want to say, folks, a couple of things. This is a big one. Gentlemen, it was a tremendous debate, so passionate, so lively. We may put out a clip from this debate because it was that good. I've got to tell you, folks, we're very excited. We just launched, as you can see in the live chat, the Modern Day Debate Clips channel. So it's an official Clips channel. It's going to be a tremendous success. If you enjoy watching clips of people like Mark and Alex and others, I got a couple Andrew Wilson clips over there, Aaron Raw, you name it. Check out this clip, or I should say clips channel, that's linked at the top of the live chat right now. You can subscribe for many clips. We're actually going to stop uploading clips at the main channel here. We're going to start uploading them to this new channel. And in the meantime, we're also going to upload, like, all the old clips are going to get switched over. With that, thank you very much for your questions, folks. We're very excited about these. We're going to move fast as we've got a good amount here. So bear with me as I try to make these short and pithy. And I'm thinking about any other... we mentioned the free debates in Youngstown, Ohio. Reminder, that is linked at the top of the description box below. If you're anywhere in Youngstown, Ohio, we're going to have some in-person debates. It's at an apologetics conference, and they said, hey, Modern Day Debate, want to help us make these happen? And I was like, yeah, it'd be really fun. We're going to, come out and moderate, stuff like that. So with that, first question from the theater guy says, how does God solve the problem of circularity? Even God would have to appeal to the reliability of his own reasoning circularly to know that his reasoning is reliable. This just kicks the can down the road, Alex.
Yeah, I would say in the same way that God is the source of knowledge, he's the source of reliability. The only reason anything is true is because it comports to the mind of God. Now, in a debate, I wouldn't use that definition of truth, or as the Bible states it, Jesus is truth, right? So truth is a person, not a what. But for debates like this, I don't like to just say that because then it gets bogged down. You could just, we didn't even get into a definition of truth, but usually we'll just say like truth is what comports to reality. It's kind of like a base level so that there's a common agreement usually for that definition there. But ultimately, I would say that God doesn't need to justify his reliability, because the only reason that anything is true is because God has made it true.
You got it. Thank you very much for this question coming in from Marilyn, aka Melvin, aka a bot. Says, we're all gods because of God. Kings and queens and everything should be free. You all have Stockholm syndrome. Okay, that has to be a bot. Or it's a human copying and pasting idioms from a bot. I don't know. Any thoughts? Okay, let's go to the next one. Elmo Andretti. Both of you guys, you poor guys, said Elizabeth. They say, if you make a claim something doesn't exist and there's no way you can prove it, that's unfalsifiable. You can't prove it. Example, unicorns don't exist. What's your evidence other than you haven't seen one?
Who was that to?
I believe Mark.
Let's see.
Sorry, I was looking at my chat. I apologize.
I'll read it one more time because I am also unsure. You say if
Well,
you make...
Yeah, so I guess from my point of view, you sort of say, well, evidence of absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, but that's not true. That, you know, if I say, you know, I have nothing in my hand, or I have something in my hand, evidence of absence can be, absence of evidence can be evidence of absence when you expect to find evidence and you found none. That's why sort of I was talking about divine hiddenness and how we would expect to see something of the God in the world in a way that would be convincing, and that would be some really strong evidence for it, not very, very weak argumentation, which is all we seem to get. So I think at that point, like for instance, with something like Bigfoot, you would be justified in saying Bigfoot does not exist because we do not find the evidence that we should. I think that is a fair justification.
You got it. Thank you very much for your question coming in from Even Lord. Says, Dr. Coons, I didn't know you were hosting Master Chef. Wi-Fi Gospel was cooking with his opening. I think that's something the young people say nowadays.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to say...
Unfortunately, it was word salad, unfortunately, is what he was cooking.
They say, also, I would like to say I love MDD in your work. Thank you for your kind words. We are excited about the future, you guys. I have to say, people like Mark and Alex are why this channel is fun and why it's grown. And I am just so grateful. These guys, by the way, huge props to them, because this debate was supposed to happen like a week or two ago. And then they were just so, thank you guys for your graciousness as I kind of fumbled with the organizing. So thank you guys.
Look, it happens, mate. I've done missed schedules and things before. I think everybody's done it at some point. No, be charitable, people. Just be charitable. Occasionally it does happen.
Yeah, I'm just
Thank
amazed.
you, Mark.
I'm just amazed that you invite me to do this stuff. So it's my pleasure to be here. And just to say to Mark, obviously things get heated, but I think this is our third debate. This is our third debate now, and I think we've become good sparring partners. We try to knock each other out in the ring, but afterwards we're good. And that was a good comeback, cooking word salad.
When was the first one? Well, I did the morality one with you. I don't remember any other one.
Wasn't it? Didn't you partner with Corinth? Mike,
oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Good call.
You got it. I didn't know this is your third debate. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. This one from Jeff Klein. Thank you very much, Jeff, for your super chat. It says, the second a moral anti-realist agrees there is at least one thing in existence which remains unchanging, their entire worldview is defeated. Just one. So I'll say that in case people are unfamiliar. So a moral anti-realist is a noun in this case, because a lot of those words can seem like they run together. I'm trying to remember. A moral anti-realist is, do I remember right? This would be a person, they don't believe in, not only is it that they don't believe in objective ethics, right? But you guys have to refresh me. I should know this, but I can't remember.
Oh, it's just the not believing in objective ethics. It's just sort of a moral relativist or a subjective morals or ethics. So a moral anti-realist just thinks that morals are stance dependent. They're constructs in the mind, basically, or over a society,
you're right.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, listen. Yes. they said in their, I'll read it one more time because they say the second, a moral anti-realist agrees there is at least one thing in existence which remains unchanging. Their entire worldview is defeated.
Are you a moral anti-realist, Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a meta-ethical relativist, so I think that as soon as you get a goal for moral decisions, that we can make some fairly not objective, but we can make decisions in virtue of that which are objective.
You got
So
it. And in terms of the super chat, I'm just trying to, I'm like rusty. I do have a philosophy background, which is why I'm so embarrassed that I'm like wrapping my head around it. Basically, they're saying, you know, Mark as an anti-moral realist, a guy who says like, nah, I don't believe in objective ethics. They're saying if Mark concedes that there's even one thing that exists that's unchanging, they're saying like that shows, Mark, that your moral anti-realism is baloney. And I'm trying to, I can't remember how that follows. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around
well, I think
either of you.
Maybe it's in relation to morals, like if there is a moral that would be unchanging for all time. But I mean, you know, I think that the morals that we have are largely based upon our position as a social species, as having to work with one another. I can imagine that as a moral anti-realist, if it changed so all humans didn't exist, there would be no morals. If something, I don't know of anything absolute like that. Like if it was good for humans to experience pain and that helped them in some way, I don't know how that would come about. But, you know, I don't see it as unchanging. I see it as dependent on the reality that we see around us. So I think that if things change to that degree, I don't know how, that would be insane to think about, that harming people would be good for them. But if somehow that happened, yeah, our morals would change. So no, I don't think there is anything absolute. I think it's all dependent on the physical makeup of humans, which, you know, if it changes so that humans go extinct, no morals anymore as far as I'm concerned. I know Alex would disagree, but I think there wouldn't be morals anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it necessarily follows what he was trying to say. I mean, I know Jeff, maybe you could explain it to me some more, but because if, like you said, you don't think that humans experiencing pain, that people would just automatically all of a sudden think that was good, but it could happen, and if it did, then the morals would change. So I think that was a good answer.
You got it. This one coming in from Jeff Soul says, if God can manifest as a burning bush and hand Moses tablets on a mountain, why inhabit a young married child's uterus without her consent to be born? Seems like a holy rape and gross possession. I'll give you a chance, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like, we know where babies come from and how that happens, but it wasn't a physical act that put this baby into Mary. But I do think that there was consent given. She was more than happy to be doing this for God. It wasn't like she was like, oh man, I got to do this. Like, she was more than thrilled to be bearing the God man.
You got it. This one coming in from Even Lord says, this debate has been very respectful. Well done. It has been excellent. There was no name calling. If it were me, I would have just been slinging around all sorts of nasty words. But Isa Kabir says, Wi-Fi gospel. The critique of Judaism does not make sense as the big JC, parentheses Sal, taught it. And this term Christian is actually an exonym, not an endonym. I have to look up both those words.
Yeah. I'm mad I can't read the super chats live while you're reading them because it helps understanding them. But I guess he disagrees with the remarks in Daniel 9 that lay out a timeline for the Messiah. It's not I mean, some people think it's an exact timeline, and I don't have the ability to decipher that, so I wouldn't argue for that. But I would say that it at least says that the Messiah will come before the destruction of the Second Temple. So if it's a debate between Judaism and Christianity, and Judaism has no Messiah to offer before the destruction of the Second Temple, I would think that would be a refutation.
Wow. I'm going to share what exonym and endonym mean, because I'm like, oh, they're useful words. I'm like, this is cool. An exonym is a word that outsiders use for a particular like place or group of people. So, like let's say people from country X refer to themselves as like Xers, but like we from like outside of country X are like, yeah, those are like the Yers. Like we call them a different name.
So
The
it's like
Yers
Germany.
is like our exonym for them. But
Right, so Germany.
One more time.
Germany. We call them Germans in Germany, but they call it Deutschland.
Yes, that's a good.
Okay.
That's excellent. That's perfect. So
Yeah.
the exonym is us calling it Germany. It's like that's our exonym for it as outsiders. But there, they would call it. I think you said Deutschland.
Yeah, Deutschland.
And that would be the endonym. It's like the internal name, like the name used internally, like in this case within the country. So
Or where
okay,
they
I'll
call them Indians, for instance, when they called them Indians and not their actual name.
Maybe what he's referring to is sometimes, like a lot of times Christians refer to the Messiah as there's just this one Messiah, but rabbinic Judaism refers to like Messiah ben Joseph, and I forget the name of the other one, but there's another Messiah. Maybe he's referring to like how we refer to the Messiah.
Interesting. I'll read it one more time really quickly. It says, the critique of Judaism does not make sense as I think he means like as Jesus taught it. And this term Christian is actually an exonym, not an endonym. Oh yeah. Okay. So
I was wrong.
Because Christian in Acts, I think it's like Acts 10, where it said like, and they were called Christians. And I think it was like sense as an outside. Right. It was in Acts, I know that, and I think it was like outsiders called them Christians.
Yeah, little Christ. It was kind of like making fun of them.
Yes. Displaced Gamer says if internal justifications are invalid and only an external source like God is valid, then how does God justify anything? God's justifications are internal. If those are acceptable, then internal justifications must be valid.
Well, just because I wouldn't say like God justifies things at all, like, and it is so. So I think there's a category error here, and this is what Mark said was special pleading. So maybe that's the case, but I think it's just a different error. To say that even if God did justify things internally, that wouldn't make our internal justifications okay. Like it's like saying just because God has commanded that stealing is wrong, of an internal justification of that's his nature, right? That wouldn't then say I can internally justify why I think stealing is right. That's my nature. I don't think that would follow.
You got it. Thank you very much for this question coming in from Smoky Saint Polemic says, wow, Mark, owned by a pre-supper. Wow.
Oh, I thought that guy was in jail for heinous acts, but never mind.
Jeff Klein says, for Mark, why do most things change, but some things remain unchanging?
Sorry, what was that question?
They said, why do most things change, but some things actually remain unchanged?
I don't know what remains unchanged. Everything changes. Like if you get down to even quantum states, they're constantly changing. We're constantly. So there's this Aristotelian idea of the three laws of logic, and it is useful as a model, but there is other systems of logic, like for instance, process ontology or process philosophy, which sort of describes things in a I don't want to get too bogged down in language, but it's a spatio-temporal sort of traveling through space and time, and everything changes along that. I don't know what doesn't change in some way. Even our bodies, I think every 7 years or so, all of our cells are replaced. Everything changes. I don't know what you mean by things that are unchanging, because everything changes.
You would say that the laws of logic change?
Well, no, but that's just a model. That's just
Okay.
an abstraction to describe the world. And it's useful. Like, for instance, Newton's laws of gravity are useful. We can use them to pinpoint accuracy catapults and things, but they're not a definitive representation of how gravity works. Einsteinian gravity is a lot more accurate. We can do a lot more things with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but with the laws of logic, it would be, wouldn't it? Like
What do you mean?
the law of non-contradiction.
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. When you get into a quantum level, we're not sure, but that may violate say the law of excluded middle, where a particle can be sort of at two states and in between all the way at the same time. Is that violating it? Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate the way you spoke about quantum, because so many people like to speak as if we already know what's going on at the quantum level. But I think that was a fair way of speaking.
Well, it may be, it may not. Nobody's
Yeah.
categorically said that, but it does seem to be the case that that's why we have quantum logic instead of the norm. We can't apply normal Aristotelian 3 laws of logic to quantum states. We have to have our own system of logic for that. And maybe they'll come out a model which encapsulates all of it. I don't know.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. No, this is like a sick bot-like comment from Maryland. Nathan Reamer, we still love Maryland or Melvin. Nathan Reamer says, "What's up, Dr. James? Much love. Thank you for your kind words, brother. And thank you, GP EGEMGTM3 says Wi-Fi. How does God know that he is not a brain in a vat? And if we can't understand God's knowledge, how can a believer speak for God at all?"
Yeah, so there's 2 questions there. One, how does God know that he's not a brain in a vat? The same way that I would say I do. If there was if God was a brain in a vat, that would mean there is no God. And if there is no God, there's no possibility of knowledge, which is a contradiction. Secondly, this is something I have more studying to do, and someone else could give a better question. But there is something within Christianity called the essence-energy distinction. And even though God's essence is fully unknowable, we know him through his energies. And so there's a dichotomy there that I'm not completely familiar with.
You got it. Folks, want to call your attention to 2 things. First, as I mentioned, at the top of the description box, 2 in-person debates with 2 huge debaters. David Wood, one of the biggest Christian apologetics channels on YouTube. At one point, he had 900,000 subscribers, and then he just gave the channel away to somebody else and started a new one. He is going to be debating Daniel Hakikachu. In my opinion, maybe the strongest debater from Islam. It's going to be in Youngstown, Ohio. There's going to be 2 debates that day between those 2 gentlemen. You don't want to miss them. They're free to the public. Check out the link in the description box right now. It's at the top of the description box, so it's so easy to find. You can see how you can sign up. It's free. So if you're like, well, I don't really like Christian apologetics, I don't have time or don't have interest in that, but I do want to hear these debates, you can do that. There's an option to sign up for it that way. So it's kind of like the a la carte option. So highly encourage you. Check out the link below. Mull it over. Hey, if you're nearby, like, fly on out. It's and just say hello to me. I'd love to meet you in person. And also, as I pinned at the top of the live chat, Modern Day Debate has released our own clips channel. Finally, the time has come. Click on that if you are like, I'd like clips. With that, gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much. Mark and Alex are linked in the description box below. So if you're like, hey, I want to hear more, I wish this debate would just keep going, well, you can hear more from both of our guests. I'm putting in right now, and that way the hyperlink will stay, is our dear friends, Wi-Fi Gospel and Mark are linked and hyperlinked in the description box right now. And I'm going to actually reapply the hyperlinks in the title as well. Thank you so much, Mark and Wi-Fi Gospel. It's been a pleasure to have you guys here tonight.
Pleasure was mine.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Alex. Thanks, James.
Thanks, everybody.
My pleasure. So I'll be back in just a moment, folks. Stick around. I'll give you more updates on upcoming events, including DebateCon 6 this fall and those 2 in-person debates coming up at this huge conference in Ohio that Modern Day Debate is trying to help in terms of just coordinating, moderating, and then streaming the debate so the whole world can see it. I'll be back in just a moment. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a true pleasure to have you. Let me know if I can do anything in addition to adding your guys' links in the there you go, Wi-Fi Gospel versus Mark, and that their way they'll be hyperlinked because sometimes in the past
What's going on? What's happening? Oh, that's better. That's better. Okay. Sorry about that, peeps. I lost in the source. You probably saw my wonderful desktop there, which is just fantastic. Sorry, this was really like last minute, short stop, horrible, put together, just whatever I could do to make this work. So I do apologize. I'm going to go and see if I can find any super chats that may have come through. Look, I have no idea. I really wasn't paying attention. Wow, that was wild. So I'm kind of a bit annoyed at myself because it kind of got lost in the source. It really got lost in this hard solipsism thing. And no matter what these people say, it like there is no overcoming hard solipsism. It is one of those philosophical problems that it just seems to be, there's no absolute way to tell. But I think sort of getting direct senses is a justified reason as to why we should believe them. I think that is totally fine. Yeah, I think that I think that a lot of his stuff is just saying because God, and I pointed it out, like just a whole bunch of claims kind of thing. I did like that. I managed to get him to say, well, God doesn't have knowledge, then God does have knowledge, then, well, you don't need an external mind to have knowledge. Only God doesn't need it. This is the kind of backwards and forwards shuffling that we see with these pre-suppers and these people who are just trying to make the God thing work. Because he has to say, oh, well, God doesn't have knowledge, not the kind of knowledge we have. Well, it's either knowledge or it's not knowledge. So God doesn't believe anything, and that belief isn't justified and true. It's very wild to have this kind of argument. Kant, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Kant. No, Bo Daddy, I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but I'll certainly check it out. I think hard solipsism is one of those things. Yeah, all claims, no substance. Absolutely, absolutely. Just claim after claim after claim. Nothing with any kind of demonstration behind it. This whole idea that I can't have knowledge because I can't be 100% sure that this world isn't an illusion. My beliefs are justified that this isn't an illusion, right? It's justified. And if it's true, it is in fact true, and he agrees that it's true, then I have knowledge and no God required. So, and I don't know how. I did like that somebody asked, well, how does God know that he's not in a matrix or hard solipsism? It's that all the way down. God does not shortcut. Everything is true because God. It doesn't even follow. One God, therefore God. Yeah, and as I pointed out, he's just using Christianity to be God. That's essentially what he's doing. It's a very, very sort of sloppy kind of syllogisms that he's doing. So hopefully I pointed that out, but he's just sort of said, no, the impossibility of the contrary is because of atheism has this thing. Look, it doesn't. It doesn't. We can be very sure that we are not in a illusion. Can we be absolutely sure? No, but no one's claiming to be absolutely sure. All it needs is justification and it happening to be true. That's all. But he didn't seem to understand the truth part of it. Max is starting up his after show. I was going to ask Max if he was going to do that. Yeah, so hang around. I will shoot you off to Max. I'm logged out of Discord. Hang on, get back on Discord. If I knew Max was doing the after show, I would have mentioned it on stream on Modern Day Debate. I didn't know he was, which is a little unfortunate. Let me see if Max's thing has come up, because I do want to shoot over to that one. But yeah, it sort of I kind of blame myself. We didn't really go into evidence or anything like that. It just is kind of just it really is just I don't know. Also, what was the guy talking about with like something unchanging? I have no idea what's unchanging. Like he's talking about the laws of logic like they are, that they're not just a model of how the reality works, like they are somehow a thing independent of reality. No, they're just a description. They're just a description. The reality works in a logical way. The laws of logic are just a description of things. Yeah, so practical applications. So Spielcab, if you are in the matrix and all of this is just around us is illusion, the practical application doesn't make any sense. right? Like you're relying still on your senses in order to know that there's a practical application of it, right? How do you know it's practical? Because our senses show it to be practical. So you're still in the same problem. And it's a philosophical problem that's been going for ages. Objective idealism. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not huge on Kant. I've read way more Hume than Kant. I thought, you know, and Hume is the one that sort of really fleshed out the problem. Okay, just logged on to Discord. Yeah, cool. Give me 1 second, and I'll see if I can do a cheeky send over to Max's stream. Give me 1 sec. Redirect. There we go. Okay, beautiful. I'll save that. All right. Well, we'll go over to. I mean, I'll be over there in a minute. I probably want to get something to eat. But thank you so much for joining me. It always is fantastic. I think I would have gone insane if you guys weren't in the chat giving me support. So I really appreciate it. All of that is, you know, I don't know. I just trust people to see baloney for what it is. All of that was baloney. Like just sort of. Well, God solves this problem because God. I don't understand it. It's so circular. You know, and pointing out that, hey, the impossibility of the contrary only exists because he's claiming that God is the reason for knowledge. That's it. That's the entire argument, which is just bafflingly bad. But thank you so much. Yeah. Listen to Andrew. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you haven't before. I will be doing more debates. Yeah, we'll be going over to Yerba Mate afterwards. Yerba Mate afterwards. Sherba Mate. Why do I keep calling it Yerba Mate? I've killed myself. What's the overlay like? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so maybe I can do this. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I haven't really used this overlay. It isn't as bad as I expected. Actually, it's not too bad. So yes, thank you so much for joining me. Like, share, subscribe, all the stuff. Also, I will have a member stream coming up where I will play games, chat, talk about movies, talk about stuff. So if you do want to join the channel to just hang out and chill, I do that every fortnight. And at the moment, I don't know what I'm going to play this time. I don't know, but I like hanging out with the members. It's this really good time. Yeah, don't forget to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will see you over at Max's. Bye, everybody.